deliver them to your cities. Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good.
What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you for being here. Today, I'm going to do a reaction to Netanyahu saying, today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York City. Some people took it as a warning to thwart Iran. Many, even in MAGA, have taken it as that sounds like a veiled threat to us. And of course, people remember that Trump was not happy when Zelensky did the same thing, basically saying, if you don't help us, something bad's going to happen to you. And Trump interrupted him and said, no, we're going to be fine either way. Don't you say that. So it'll be interesting to see if Trump has the same energy with Netanyahu. Spoiler alert, probably not. Then we're going to go over a few other things, including the No Kings protest and why I think it kind of flopped so terribly. Of course, a few things popped off. I mean, it was a crazy weekend to some extent, especially with, I think it was in Minnesota or Minneapolis. They had lawmakers that were murdered by some psychopath who allegedly used to work for Tim Walz or something. I mean, I got to wait a little bit and research that story more before I talk about it. But it was a crazy weekend. But overall, I think the protest failed. And yeah, got a lot to talk about. So thank you guys for being here. Dream Rare podcast starts now. Welcome to the show.
It's the Dream Rare podcast. Welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. Yeah.
What's going on Facebook? What's going on YouTube? What's going on Rumble? What's going on Spotify and Apple? Give me a thumbs up if everything sounds good on the video, and a thumbs up on the video for the algorithm. And that's what it is. We got Grace said it's a mad, mad world we're living today. Come, Jesus, come. Amen. Well, start with a nice prayer. Thank you. Stockton said hello. Thumbs up. All right, let's get into it because I got a few clips that I really want to show you guys. But here's the first one that I led with. And also, I'm just going to play it again in full context because he says this is a battle of good versus evil. Today, it is Tel Aviv. Tomorrow, it is New York City, to which many online, I posted it on my Facebook page, which has a lot of different mixed reviews. Some people agree with my foreign policy, some not, because it's an older crowd. It's definitely the most pro-Trump, pro-Israel out of all of my social media pages for sure. So when I post on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I kind of have a different vibe on each one. And even a lot of my Facebook, I would say a majority of my Facebook, who's the most pro-Israel and probably pro-Netanyahu, they saw it as a threat. They were like, I don't like how he said that. Here's what he said.
To have nuclear weapons and the means to deliver them to your cities. Today it's Tel Aviv, tomorrow it's New York. I understand America first. I don't understand America dead. That's what these people want. They chant death to America. So we're doing something that is in the service of mankind, of humanity, and it's a battle of good against evil. America should and does stand with the good. That's what President Trump is doing, and I deeply appreciate his support.
Like I briefly mentioned at the beginning of the video, Zelensky said something very, very similar. It was along the lines of, I think he said World War III, or it's, if you don't help us, it's going to come to your shores, something along those lines. And Trump was like, no, Zelensky, okay, you don't have the cards. You don't have, don't you say that, little boy. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir. No, I don't remember how it went, but basically Zelensky said the same thing, and Trump was like, "We'll be fine. We'll be okay either way. Don't you say that." And Trump took it as a threat. Netanyahu said virtually the same thing, and I highly doubt Trump is going to come out with the same sort of condemnation, but we'll see. Trump is in the press now, and he's essentially saying, "I think we can strike a deal." Meanwhile, Trump saying he wants to strike a deal. Israel is striking the media, some sort of media service in Iran, and Iran is sending missiles back to Israel. It's pretty much turned into a full-blown war. I mean, I'm not going to act like it couldn't be worse. Obviously, it could be worse, but is there anyone out here trying to say like it's not a war? Like Trump is trying to say essentially like, it's heating up a little bit, and sometimes they got to fight, but I think we'll get a deal. It's like, I hope so. I definitely hope a deal is struck, but it doesn't seem like both sides want a deal. And as somebody that really has no dog in this race, obviously we're allies with Israel, my country. But I don't have a huge bias, obviously. I feel like Israel hit them first? Are you even allowed to say that? I don't know. Like Israel like hit them and then they hit back, and Israel did the whole thing that they always do where they're like, "Oh, they just did this." And it's like, they do the same thing in Gaza. I understand that there was a day that happened where thousands of people died and it was horrific, and I'm not downplaying it at all, but it doesn't erase 100 years of history. And this is not justification. I'm just saying it's like no matter what Israel does, and this happens in other countries too, I'm not just saying them, they always act like it started whenever they got attacked. Like they have no self-awareness or self-accountability for anything that they've ever done. It's always like the second somebody attacks us, that's when it all started. It's like, yeah, I mean, you could say that in Ukraine as well. You could say that it all started when Putin invaded, but that's not true. It's actually not true at all. They had a revolution in Ukraine, which was essentially probably a coup from America to take over the country. We were, messing up treaties. We had Lindsey Graham flying over there, giving Ukraine weapons, declaring war on Russia. So I'm not saying, once again, that Putin had to do that, but it didn't start from that day. And it's the same thing with this. It's like, I don't even know what they're saying anymore, but didn't they attack Iran first because they said they had to? And then so the war's broken out. I'm not sitting here choosing sides. I just don't like what, I almost said Zelensky, it might as well be, but Netanyahu, what he said about New York, it's a little bit creepy because, yeah, on one hand, he could just be saying that we will be attacked if we don't go there. But, there's a very weird history between the United States, Israel, and I'll start with the Levant affair. The Levant affair was something that happened in the 1900s. I don't know if it was the 40s, 50s, or 60s, or 70s. I'd have to look it up. But the Levant affair was essentially Israel wanted the West and people in Europe and America to do stuff that we weren't ready to do, it seemed like. And then they tried to do some sort of false flag where they said it was Egyptian communists and the Muslim Brotherhood. And they had a plan to plant bombs in American stuff, libraries, all sorts of public spaces. And I don't know that anybody was killed in the attacks, and I think that people caught them doing it, so it didn't launch a full-fledged war at the time, but they definitely tried. It's called the Levant affair. You could look it up. So there's already proof, and I'm not saying America's great and they're bad, and I'm not saying every other country doesn't do this. This is not to shift all the blame on them, and I'm just being honest. It's like they do have a proven history of trying to launch America into their wars via false flag. So when he says stuff like that, it rubs a lot of people the wrong way, especially people that question 9/11. I know you're not supposed to do that, obviously, but a lot of people are on social media. If you look around, a lot of people are coming up with theories based on news reports that they've seen. I think there's some clip where someone noticed a bunch of Israelis dancing, and then they were reported, and I think they were deported as well back to Israel, and then they were on the news there. It's a very interesting and bizarre story, but a lot of people point to that. Here's what I'm going to say, though. I'm not going to say anything I can't prove. But I did notice recently that the two groups that America has gone to fight after 9/11, they said Al-Qaeda did 9/11, but now Al-Qaeda basically runs Syria, and it seems like everybody's happy. And when it comes to ISIS, the ISIS, that we've been attacking and Trump was trying to defeat, it seems like they're getting funded by Netanyahu's regime, and even Haaretz, Israeli news, is reporting that. So just take a clip, or just watch a 3-minute clip real quick of a short that I spent hours making today, putting it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and everything. And then we'll move on. But I think this really drives home like why I'm creeped out by what Netanyahu said and why a lot of people are. Watch this whole quick video. You won't regret it. My whole life, ISIS and Al-Qaeda were the boogeymen for all of our actions in the Middle East. These radical extreme terrorists that were horrible, evil, which I still believe they are, and all the quote-unquote conspiracy theories about them were that the United States and our allies were actually either behind them or funding them. It seemed crazy. Who would believe that? Why? We need to go avenge what they did to us. But reports have come out within the last few weeks and months that Western press doesn't seem to be reporting outside of a few Israeli publications, which is this headline: "What's wrong with that? How Israel trained and armed an ISIS-linked Gazan militia." In 2017, Newsweek ran this headline: "ISIS fighters regret attacking Israel and have apologized," former defense minister says. And when it comes to Al-Qaeda, even ABC News and everybody's reporting it, from Al-Qaeda to Syria's presidency, the rise of Ahmad al-Sharaa. And our Western allies seem to be thrilled with the fact that the neocon/establishment regime change in Syria happened. This is always what they wanted. They always wanted regime change, but they told you it was going to lead to democracy and a better country or whatever, building schools. In reality, it seems like they're totally fine with an Al-Qaeda guy taking over the country. So once again, for decades, we were told ISIS and Al-Qaeda were the boogeymen that we were fighting, and mainstream news has now confirmed what Tulsi Gabbard used to say on television and get yelled at for, which is the United States is funding Al-Qaeda-linked groups.
They expressed a question. They said, why is it that the United States, its allies and other countries are providing support, are providing arms to terrorist groups like al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, Arar al-Sham, ISIS, who are on the ground there?
An Israeli publication is admitting that Israel is funding ISIS-linked groups. So let me know in the comment section, were the quote-unquote conspiracy theorists right that these two horrible groups that the news was telling us is the reason that we're fighting wars in the Middle East for 20 years? Were we actually either working with the groups or literally behind the groups? Or do you have some sort of other explanation for why one of them currently runs Syria and the others being funded by our greatest ally? Appreciate you. Have a good day. Thanks for listening. So I'm going to just give you guys a timeline real quick, then we're going to get back to other things in the show. In the 2000s, I think, I'm trying to think of the exact timeline. Like, obviously, 9/11 happened. I was maybe in middle school. I can't remember. Maybe elementary school, maybe middle school. I lived not exactly like near there, but not that far, to be honest. So it was a huge deal where I was from, because it's not, once again, like people knew people that worked around there. I know people that had people pass there. It was a shock. When 9/11 happened, it was one of the craziest days I can remember. Super, super sad. And, moving forward, I never really questioned much like the first year or two, because I think I was in like middle school. Like, what am I going to question? Like, I'm just a kid. Once I got to high school, I started, questioning a lot of things. And I came to the conclusion, I think there was a documentary called Loose Change, and they basically talked about how, they lied about the Twin Towers. And I can't remember exactly what that documentary said, if they said it was an inside job or basically it wasn't exactly how they said it happened. Like, obviously damage was done, but they were saying something along the lines like jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams. And, there was probably explosives in there, and it looked like a controlled demolition, because it did go down like a controlled demolition. It looked like that, at least. So I watched that documentary, and I remember that I was like, whoa, that's crazy. I was impressionable at the time. I think I believed a lot of it. And I came to the conclusion by the time I was 17, 18 years old, I was like, I think the United States is lying. And I think the United States is probably funding terrorist organizations. And that's a crazy thing to think when you're 17 years old. And especially when I grew up, nobody agreed with me. It's not like I had a lot of friends that were like, yeah, you're right. It's almost like everybody at my school thought I was a psycho, and I was crazy. And I was like, messed up for questioning everything that we were taught. And it seems like everything I thought, I mean, I'm not going to say everything I thought, but it does seem like that's now true, because if you follow the timeline, first, Tulsi Gabbard said on CNN, she said she went to Syria and everybody said that the United States was funding groups, including Al-Qaeda, ISIS. And if they weren't funding them directly, they were linked to that. So we were funding rebel groups that were linked with Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So Tulsi said it. I believed it then. I did reports. You could find videos of mine from 2017, almost 10 years ago now, saying that, or at least pointing out that she said that, trying to do a good journalistic job of at least showing it. And then 2017, there was that article from Newsweek where it said that ISIS attacked Israel and apologized. And I was like, why would ISIS apologize to Israel? They're the arch enemy of the United States. If they're our number one enemy in the world after Al-Qaeda like rebranded and now it's ISIS or whatever, it's like they're the number one. Why would they apologize to our ally if they attack us and everybody around us? Like, why would they apologize to Israel? Or why would a defense minister or somebody say that they did? So I saw that in 2019, 2018. I don't remember. I know the article is from 2017, but I don't remember when I saw it. And I was like, wow, that's pretty crazy. Fast forward, now an Al-Qaeda person leads Syria and is like running Syria. And the West is thrilled. All the neocons, all the war hawks, nobody seems to care, not our allies in Europe. Nobody. Everyone's like, yay, we got rid of Bashar al-Assad. And it's like, but I thought Al-Qaeda was our enemy. Why? How bad is Bashar al-Assad? He's so bad that you're glad Al-Qaeda, the people that you said did 9/11s, running the country. So it's becoming very clear, and I'm going to speak more candidly about it now that I have more evidence. It's becoming very clear that we obviously funded these groups directly or indirectly. And the more and more evidence seems to be coming out that not only are we funding these groups, but perhaps we created these groups. These were rebel groups that were organized by us, definitely funded by us. Like we were the terrorists, essentially. Not me, but our country. Like we got to go fight Al-Qaeda. It's like, were we Al-Qaeda the whole time? Were you guys behind them the whole time? Because that's what I thought since I was 17. Like that was the big conspiracy theory. Now there's so much evidence towards it, where how much more evidence do you need that an Al-Qaeda guy's running Syria? And you hear, where's all the backlash on Fox News, right? All these, I'm not trying to pick, but all these Zionist boomers that believe Fox News for the last 40 years, and they think like Brett Byers telling them the truth and Sean Hannity. It's like, didn't they fearmonger about Al-Qaeda for 20 years? Isn't that why you thought we had to go fight Saddam Hussein and, the guy in Libya, Gaddafi? Like, wasn't it like, oh, Al-Qaeda attacked us, we got to go fight all them? Isn't that what Fox? How many times has Fox talked about the fact that Al-Qaeda or a person linked to Al-Qaeda is running Syria? Probably not much, because they don't care. They're just using them as a boogeyman, probably funding them. And then the news is like, up on to the next thing, Iran. Now we got to attack them. Now they're the bad. Like, you missed a whole part. I don't forget storylines. I don't forget plots. I'm not another brainwashed American where I'm like, I'm going to hate Al-Qaeda for 20 years and then I'm just going to forget about it, even though they told us they did 9/11. Yeah, I don't forget about stuff like that. I don't forget about the thousands of people that died in America. I don't forget about the fact that that's why we went to war. I don't forget about the fact that that's why trillions of dollars were spent and hundreds of thousands of people died around the world. I don't forget about these little things. I know these, I'm not trying to be a dick, but I know these like Fox News brainwashed Zionist people. I don't know why I said it that way. I just was going to say Zio and then I finished the word, but I don't really care. Call it what you want. The people that believe this type of programming, it's like they completely forget about it. They're like, Al-Qaeda bad. And then 10 years later, they're like, ISIS bad. And then 10 years later, they're like, Ukraine bad. And if they don't fall for that one, they're like, Iran bad. It's like an Al-Qaeda guy's running Syria, and the people that fearmongered about that group for 10 years now isn't even talking about it, as if it doesn't even matter, as if they weren't our arch enemy, because they probably never were our enemy. We were probably always funding them. And that should really tick you off a little bit. But, if that doesn't bother you and you're just like, yeah, I guess I just got lied to my whole life. And that's awesome. It's like, is it really? I guess I'm not trying to tell people to like freak out or cry about it, but like it ticks me off a little bit. I'm not going to throw a fit about it. I'm going to try to stay calm and reasonable. And like, I'm not trying to stress people out, but it's like a huge part of the story that for some reason an entire generation just doesn't seem to notice. Then you get to ISIS, and there's reports coming out in the last month in Haaretz and other Israeli publication that their ISIS-linked groups are being funded in Palestine. And you'll never hear about this in Western press, because Western press usually, for the most part, has such a Zionist, pro-Zionist skew that you'll find more truth about Israel in Israeli publication than you will in American publication. It's almost like we work in their interest more than some of their own publications. Like we're just like a cover-up team for them, and no news can really come out about it. And then you have the fake left and right game where like sometimes the left will tell the truth, but they're wrong 99% of the times. And then the people who like watch Fox News are just like Ben Shapiro, Ilhan Omar, like their understanding is so sophomoric where it's just like this always battle. It's like, look at them on the college campus, the leftists, and then the leftists get brainwashed. They're like, no kings. And it's like, what do you mean by no kings? You guys supported like the vaccine mandates. You guys supported lockdowns. You got mad when Trump went against them. Like, how stupid are you? It's like, you think Trump's a dictator, a fascist, and a king, yet you want him to lock the country down longer and force vaccines on everybody. Like, Democrats are idiots. So then Republicans see that and they're like, oh, we must be right. You would hope so. I mean, you're better than them, I guess, but you're also wrong about a lot because you have fake opposition. It's like someone posted on my Facebook, they said, Tucker Carlson was an opinion, Brett Baier is the news. Yeah, Tucker does opinion. Sean Hannity does opinion, of course. But you think Brett Baier is like nonpartisan news? You don't think Brett Baier's reading whatever script they give him? You don't think Brett Baier would be replaced if he ever told actual real news that they didn't want him to tell? Like, people, that's really where you guys are at. Yeah. Oh yeah. And Anderson Cooper is a professional athlete. It's like, my gosh. But anyway, back to this clip. Well, one, it should be massive. It should be worldwide news that it's essentially confirmed that an Al Qaeda guy leads Syria and our allies are funding ISIS-linked groups. But doesn't matter. Do you know why? Probably because we were always probably behind them to some extent, or our allies were, and that is the boogeyman we needed to do this. We got to go to there. We got to go to here. We got to go here. We fund a revolution in Ukraine. We're always meddling. And I understand, like, the world is a cold place, and I'm not trying to act like we're the worst people and everyone's so great. It's not true. But I'm just a very thoughtful person, I guess. I don't know. If America's being moral, I can justify what it's doing. And if America was doing things around the world and then America was better than I've ever seen it, I'd be like, okay, this is a necessary evil in order to make the homeland great. I know some people might think that that's cold or rude. I'm just giving hypotheticals of like a scenario where maybe I would believe it. It's like if San Francisco is clean and Los Angeles wasn't a shithole and the border wasn't open for 8 years and Donald Trump wasn't running around selling vaccines and every city isn't like a shell of what it used to be and there's just filth everywhere, then I would be like, okay, we're doing all this stuff to all these other leaders, but our country's awesome. Our country is not that awesome anymore because and I love America, but I'm just saying the areas that are cool to live in are getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's like eventually there's going to be nowhere left to run to. And, it's the same people destroying the Middle East. And I'm not saying the Middle East would be great without us. I'm just saying it's the same people destroying Libya, destroying these countries, funding terrorist groups in these countries that are terrorizing America. So it's like, it's hard for me to believe we're doing all these great things in the world when the same people doing all that are also destroying America. And it's like this fake left and right game where it's like, Biden sucks and leaves the border open. And then Donald Trump comes in and starts playing a little game. And I tried to tell people in 2021, pretty much virtually very few people listened to me because they were upset the same way, the George Floyd rioters were upset. And the George Floyd riots were for the left. It was like, you're on a lockdown, go let out some steam, go destroy your neighborhood. Like the elites let them do that. And then January 6th was a setup for the right. It's like the George Floyd of the right. I'm not saying it's as bad or as many people died, but I'm just being honest. It's like, that's the right-wing trap. I'm angry. I'm mad that the election's stolen. Okay. A liberal says, I'm mad because George Floyd died. Okay, so what are you going to do? You're just going to freak out and have an emotional outburst because you're mad about something? That's what the elites allowed everybody to do because you're under a lockdown. So they're trying to let out a little stress. They're like, you throw a riot here, then we'll arrest you and start spying on everybody. You throw an event here, destroy the cities and, ruin businesses even further. They don't care. And I try to always tell people this, the real stolen election, right? We want to talk about stolen elections because the right's always like, the election was stolen. The election was stolen. It was like brainwashed for like 3 years. Like, election stolen, election stolen. Nobody could think about anything. Okay, let's talk about another version of a stolen election that matters even more than 2020. It's called every election's a stolen election because none of the elections matter because even if you win in 2016 under Donald Trump, the outsider, he still locks the country down. He still runs around and sells vaccines. So how is it your election got stolen in 2016 because all of that stuff happened? It's like the real stolen election is the fact that the donors and the like true elites that are 10 levels above Trump, they get their way no matter who wins. Like, yeah, we could talk about how Biden shouldn't have been the president, and we could talk about how bad the open border was. But at a certain point, you have to talk about the other stolen election, which is no election really matters as much as everyone wants to believe it does, because both sides are controlled by the same entities. If we had a real outsider, we wouldn't have been locked down in 2020. We wouldn't have the wars now. Trump campaigned on ending the Ukraine war. It's not ended. He said he'd find peace in the Middle East. They're at war. I'm not blaming Trump. I'm just saying it doesn't matter as much as people think who wins. It matters somewhat. You can go vote. I voted. People hate that I did, but I did. But I'm realistic about it. It's like maybe 5 things I want to change will change, and the other 100 are going to stay the same, and they're going to do a little dance. But anyway, back to this part. I mean, I had to go on that rant because it comes full circle. It's like, I don't like when foreign leaders basically say that we're next, whether it's Zelensky or, Netanyahu, for multiple reasons. One, we have a history of false flags that are proven, like the Levant affair and others. People will mention others, but I'm just going to stick to that one. I found out, I believe my whole life, but now I have enough evidence to say that we were essentially backing the two boogeymen of the last 20 years, ISIS and Al-Qaeda. And there's reports about us and our allies backing them apologizing to our allies, them leading Syria and meeting with foreign leaders now, like it's a legitimate government. They're nicer to the Al-Qaeda guy than they were to Bashar al-Assad. Why? Because they wanted the Al-Qaeda guy to lead the country. It's like they'd rather have Al-Qaeda leading the country than Bashar al-Assad. They'd rather Zelensky destroy Ukraine than have a leader that likes Russia. They have like, and you look at our country, it's like, how could you believe that they're doing all of this for us when our cities are falling apart? I don't get it. But I'm going to listen to another clip of Netanyahu. He's talking about how they went after one of the guys, like one of the scientists, and he said he's basically Hitler because, of course, anybody that Israel doesn't like is Hitler. And if you disagree, you're an anti-Semite. And in many countries around the world, you'll go to prison because, disagreeing with them is anti-Semitism and it's a prison sentence in most countries, maybe not most countries, but dozens of countries, besides America with the First Amendment. They'll just like jail you. They're like, oh, you're hateful because, you disagree with us. It's like, okay, I'm sorry. You're right about everything. You've never lied. You've never exaggerated. You're perfect. You're always telling the truth. You're the most moral military. You're the greatest. You're special boys and special girls. You're the best. Let me just serve you the rest of my life. And they're like, okay, that's good. But anything outside of that, anything outside of 100,000% compliance to everything they ever say or do, then you will eventually be called these names as well. So I'm not saying that this guy was good, but it's like, they use the same branding for everything. It's just like annoying.
But we've targeted their top nuclear scientists. It's basically Hitler's nuclear team. We got him.
It's basically Hitler's nuclear team. They got him. They got Hitler's nuclear team in Iran. It's just basically the same thing. Is it the same thing? Once again, you have to agree with Netanyahu and Israel, or else you're an anti-Semite, and you'll eventually be called those names too. They got a lot of other labels to call you, but can't they just be real about the situation? Be like, this guy from Iran is bad. He had nuclear plans, and we didn't like him, so we killed him because we don't trust Iran. Okay, fair. I mean, maybe not fair to some, but calling everyone Hitler all the time, it's like it was basically Hitler's team. I mean, maybe, but I don't really believe it, to be honest. It seems a little bit like it's an exaggeration, but of course, these are people that would never exaggerate, and there's laws around the world making sure that you never say that they ever exaggerate, because if you say that they exaggerate, that's anti-Semitism. If you say that they've ever done anything purposely to someone else, that's blood libel, because they're so secure in their war actions that they have a special word in speech laws in order to stop anybody from saying they did anything on purpose. Like, you could literally be like, you're the greatest people in the world. You're the most honorable. You're the smartest. You're the coolest. You're the best. But you purposely killed 5 civilians, I think. That's blood libel, according to them. And they have special words and special rules and special laws to stop anybody from saying it around the world, by the way. They get international laws. The same law in Australia is the same one being passed into Germany, is the same one being passed in the UK and France. I mean, close your eyes, pick an ally. America, they're trying to pass these hate speech laws, even though they don't hold up against our First Amendment, but they're trying desperately. And Trump, unfortunately, is such a puppet that he's using every executive power he can to try to squeeze them through. And punish anybody that he could possibly punish outside of the First Amendment. So it's like, yeah, okay, I totally believe you because you're so constantly always, taking zero accountability for anything and smearing your opponents. So that makes total sense. With that being said, I'm going to get back to that in a little bit because I could clearly talk about it a lot, but I want to talk about the No Kings protest because that was in the title too. And then maybe I'll read some comments and go off of what other people are saying. There was a No Kings protest this Saturday. I mean, it got ugly. I think it was a leftist because, they went after Democrat lawmakers that were just voted with Republicans on something. And the one lawmaker that was murdered, she was on television crying, being like, I had to cut a deal. Like, it's very creepy because, I understand like voting tough, but I've never seen a politician essentially like literally break down into tears because she voted against her party. Like anytime someone votes against their party, they pretty much don't care. They're like, yeah, that's what I did. Or like they make some sort of excuse, or they're like Cory Booker. They're like an actor, or like fake crying like Chuck Schumer. She legitimately looked like she was crying. Like it's almost like she knew something bad was going to happen. It's really weird. And then somebody faked, pretended to be a cop. They probably opened up the door and they killed her. So once again, I haven't looked into the story enough to really know that much about it, but I think the person used to work for Tim Walz or had an affiliate somehow there. I'm not blaming Tim Walz. He would blame Trump, of course, or anybody on the right if that were the case, but he's not complicit in this. You know, they were like, his rhetoric was too strong. I don't play these games. I know they will, everybody will, but it's like rhetoric doesn't make a person do that. I know Tim Walz says a lot of stupid things and he looks like a fruitcake. He moves his hand like, ha, ha. He'd fit in a lot of, sus areas of San Francisco. Let's just put it that way. But, Tim Walz does a lot of things. I'm not going to blame him for this. But anyway, this person was most likely a far leftist of some sort. And nobody hates Democrats more than far leftists because far leftists want them to be even further left. Like in Portland, they hate that guy in Portland, because he's just like not far left enough. But anyway, outside of that, the protests or whatever they were like, that was an extreme situation. And I think somebody also got shot, or someone shot a gun in Salt Lake City, which I heard has fallen apart. I mean, I thought the Mormons were running Utah pretty good, but apparently they lost control of Salt Lake City, and it's just disgusting now and just filled with crime. That's what I've heard. It's like graffitied everywhere. People say it sucks. A UFC fighter was there. I think he like stopped a crime. Like there was like some sort of crime going on and he stopped it. But anyway, the nationwide protest kind of flopped, and I have a theory behind why they flopped. The first original riots in Los Angeles, you could say a lot of things about them. You could say they were evil. You could say they were whatever. Like, I'm not justifying the protests. I'm just analyzing. I think most of them were organic. Was there some, were there some organizers taking advantage of it and like Randy Weingarten trying to do this and that? Yeah, of course, there's people that are going to try to latch onto it and make it their own or whatever. But for the most part, I do think that the LA riots were mostly organic, and that people in that city, not everybody, most people are good people, but there are bad people or just emotional people that are waiting for an excuse to go crazy. It's like George Floyd, there's my excuse to go crazy. There's my excuse to go crazy. Like they're waiting for something, and that they had their thing. It's like Trump was there with ICE and then they went nuts. That was real. It was like the youth. It was the anger, energy. I'm not justifying it. I don't agree with it. I don't want to live in Los Angeles. I think most of the city smells like a toilet bowl. I lived there for 7 years. Looking back on it, it just got worse every year, and I needed to get away, not just because it was shitty in the sense of filth and crime, but also because of the lockdowns. And it's like, not only was it disgusting, but then they decided to like lock down restaurants for 2 years like psychopaths. And somehow nobody in the city seems to care about that. They're like, they have priorities screwed up, and I don't want to live there. Outside of that, it was something. They were burning stuff, like not glorifying it, just being realistic with it. There was real energy there. Then the Democrats, the wine moms, the Randy Weingartens of the world, the teachers unions, all the Hillary Clintons, like all the Democrat like boomer moms and all these like losers who watch MSNBC and all the Democratic establishment, they saw the energy of the real riots and they were like, ooh, we're onto something here. Of course they don't admit that they were burning stuff and throwing things at cop cars. They just see the energy and they're like, how do we try to take the energy of these riots and make them into like a democratic thing? Because a lot of the people rioting, to be honest, they don't care about politics. They're not like, oh, I love the Democratic Party. It's just a bunch of like degens, a bunch of like young people. Like, do you think that the people looting a Nike store, do you think they're like, oh, I really like Kamala Harris? Dude, they don't care. These people probably don't vote for the most part. They're just taking advantage of stuff. They don't care. They probably don't like Trump, but I don't think they actually care about Democrats. So the Democrat moms come in and they try to like, how do we make this ours? And they go, no kings protest. And it's like, way to ruin the energy of a real riot. And I'm not glorifying it. I don't take part in it. I don't like it. I don't want to live near these people. I think they're losers. But it was real. There was energy there. There was something. And the Democrat moms just ruined it by trying to like turn it into some corny, white woman, like MSNBC, Rachel Maddow meets like Randy Weingarten. It just got so cringe so fast where nobody really cared about it. Like they're like, we're protesting ICE. Like we're angry, you know, we're pissed off. We don't like that Trump's deporting people. That's what it was about. It's not like no kings. Like, what are you even talking about? It's like no kings, but you guys let Kamala Harris, the Democrats, you guys let her get the nominee, even though she was never nominated. You just pushed Joe Biden out of the way. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen in politics. You're just like, let's just replace him completely without a vote, without anybody's permission. She finished like 9th or 8th last time in the Democratic primaries when Biden won. Let's just replace her. And these are the people that are running a no kings protest. Like, not only is it obviously hypocritical, but it's just so stupid. Like, do you think Hispanic teenagers and 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds that are pissed off at Trump and ICE and, you know, people looting stores and like the degens in the street, you think they're going to come to your no kings protest with a bunch of like, you know, MSNBC, CNN moms? Like, they're coming out of the nursing home. They're like, no kings, no kings. It's like, you know, it's like older people making something not cool. I don't think the riots were cool, but they were something. I don't think they were good. I think they're stupid. But there was something there that was too much. Like, there was so much there that they needed to bring out the Marines. They're like, you know, they're like, dude, they're taking over the city. And somehow the Democrats ruined all that energy. They're like, we want it for ourselves to go after Trump. It's like, you guys are so not cool. Like, nobody's less cool than like I'm not trying to be rude, but like a 60-year-old Democrat that watches Rachel Maddow and you're like, no kings. Trump. Oh my gosh, did you hear what Trump did today? It's like, no one cares, grandma. At least be a base boomer. At least put on Sean Hannity and be like, we got to start a war with the Middle East again because Sean Hannity told me. I'm just kidding. That's not good either. But it's just like, yeah, that's what you're doing. Somebody on my show was like, I just listened to Sarah something on Sean Ryan's podcast. And I look up this Sarah lady. God bless her. She follows me on Twitter. So I'm not trying to burn bridges. But she's like a former CIA analyst and her feed looks like a Daily Wire feed. And then Sean Ryan also follows me on Twitter. Thanks, Sean. He seems like a cool guy. He's also a former CIA guy. And maybe he's a great guy. I'm not saying he's not. He seems like he likes me. Maybe we'll get to talk one time. So I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but it's like, I'm not going to listen to some weirdo CIA lady on another CIA guy's podcast and be like, oh, that's going to tell me what's going on. Like, sorry, I'm not lit. Like, Sean seems interesting, but the lady does not. Like, at least Sean seems pretty cool. It's like, this is what people do. They're like, oh yeah, I listened to 2 CIA people on a podcast that, you know, this is what the car is like. You might as well just like, I don't know. It's just like asking like the leader of Iran, like what to do. It's like, yeah, he's going to give a very biased opinion, but I don't know. No kings. Yeah. Rachel Maddow, Bob. So that's my funny / honest take on the no kings. Like, it failed because it was a real riot that a bunch of loser Democrats tried to take over and turn it into some like The View angry thing. And I was, I had to go to a city, unfortunately, this weekend, but I ran into like one of the protests, and I'm barely in cities, but I was like, this is why I don't like cities. Like, it's grosser than everywhere. It's weird. There were people like standing on a corner. There were like 7 of them. It's just like, ew, you know, like, this is your big moment. It's because of the branding. I don't want to help you guys, but I'm just giving out free advice. If you guys want real advice, not that I would ever be like, I would never help like a Democrat government person, but I'm just saying I do have a website, dreamrarebiz.com. I do consulting, DREAM, dream, RARE, rare, BIZ, dreamrarebiz.com. It's a side hustle of mine. But, you know, I'm interested in the psychology behind marketing. I'm interested in, you know, social media like marketing. I'm interested in internet marketing and just in general. It's a passion of mine. I've worked in it even before I was here. And, you know, now that I do this full time, it's fun to do that because it's not so like, it's not my full time thing. But that's my unsolicited, like, public advice to these losers is like, you know, next time you try to steal the energy of a youth riot that has some oomph to it, don't let a bunch of loser old women that are Democrats like brand it, because then nobody's going to show up. Like all the people that made it something aren't going to be there, and it's going to be the biggest losers in the city just standing on a corner with 10 people and nobody's going to care. On that note, I saw the Tennessee Titans put out some weird Father's Day message and they deleted it. I saw the New York Yankees put out a Pride Month thing, and it's like, why do the biggest losers in the country run every sports social media page? Like, can we do a documentary? Can anybody do like an interesting Netflix show? You can just like glorify them. I don't even care. You don't even have to make fun of them. I'll laugh to myself and watch it for information. But it's like, how did this happen? Like every sports team is like, I'm gay now. I'm a sports team. I'm gay. And you're like, aren't you embarrassed? Like the Yankees, you think you pretending to be like, I don't even get it. It's like, do you think you can fight homophobia from your Twitter page? Like, I don't get, like, what do you're the New York Yankees. You hit balls off a bat and catch things with a glove. Like you're going to solve the world's crisis of homosexuality or something. It's just like, it's actually so egotistical. They act like they're so humble and they're like, this is just what I have to do. It's why, like, I don't really make grandiose statements on there's always a day. There's Father's Day. There's Veterans Day. Sometimes I'll say something if I'm inspired, but it's like everybody's got a posture and they're like, today I will make a message. Bro, nobody cares. You got 50 followers. Like you're not, I mean, I get it. It's not about like, if it impresses your friends or you really feel inspired, maybe you're a veteran and you have something to say, knock yourself out. It's not, I'm not acting like you need to have a big following, but it's just like everybody thinks they're like solving every world crisis on every day. They're like, I'm the New York Yankees Twitter page and I'm going to fight homophobia on June 2nd. It's like, bro, you think you're doing anything? I play Madden sometimes. They got end racism in the freaking video game. You think you're ending racism with a freaking paint job in the end zone? Oh, dude, I used to be a racist my whole life. And then I looked at the paint and it said end racism. And I thought, I never thought of that. And then I just stopped being racist the second I saw that. Thanks for like, there's not even like an explanation behind it. It's like, here's why racism is bad. Obviously you can't write that much on an end zone, but like, then it's like, okay, maybe we'll convince a few people. Just writing the words, that means you think someone's going to watch a sports game that never thought in their life about ending racism. Like, dude, end racism. I've never thought of that. I always thought to just keep it rolling. I never even thought of that until you said it. That's actually a pretty darn good point that you have there, Cowboys. Dude, these people are idiots. So my question is this. How did the biggest losers in the world get every sports page on social media? How do they have every company's social media? Like how does this happen? How do you get from being cool to letting the lamest, stupidest, fakest, dumbest people or group or agency run your Twitter page and run all your social media? It's like you can't even find a sports team anymore that's not gay on Pride Month or doesn't say something stupid on Father's Day. How does this happen? I'm going to read some comments, then I'm going to get back to the first story a little bit, but I understand people are saying it's commies. But how does this happen though? I have a lot of theories, obviously like liberalism, gatekeeping, but I was talking to a buddy the other day who's like, he's a very reasonable guy, very moderate guy. He said, in the corporate world, he said a lot of guys are not really liberal. They just pretend to be because the liberal women have all the power now, and either they want to get laid or they don't want to get fired or seem like they're a transphobe, racist, like a sexist, xenophobe or whatever. So they all just go along with it, Like everybody knows that friend where like a girl says something and he's like, you go girl. And it's like, bro, she's not going to date you. Like, relax, like it's like, they just suck up to every girl. They're like, yeah, I'll be your friend. I'll take you to Lowe's. Yeah, no, I'll go to Target with you. No, I'll go on a picnic with you. And then like those type of guys are always like acting like girls, like they're gossiping with the girls. And then the girls will tell those type of guys, like they'll be like complaining about other guys. They'll be like, Jeremy sucks, but really they like Jeremy, but they don't like you. So you're just like they treat you like you're their gay friend or you're like their girlfriend, but you're really not. You're just trying to get laid. Like I've seen that happen before where like any guy that plays the friend zone that hard, they're like, please give me any in. Let me in somewhere. There's going to be a crack in the door and I'm going to run faster than the same bullet. And they never open that door. Because they're just using you to complain about guys that they actually want to do stuff with. But in general, like I haven't worked I haven't worked. I'm not gonna say real job, but let me think. 20 2018, 2019, and even then I wasn't working in a big corporation. Like the last time I worked in this environment was like 2017. What's it like now? I don't know. But like, do liberal women run everything? And is everybody like afraid to call them out because liberal women are so spiteful and like vindictive? I'm a girl boss. I run the show. Here's our new social media person who's going to run the New York Yankees Twitter feed. It's Jebediah Johnson Jr. Jeremiah, who is two-spirited. She has, someday she'll come in this way, someday she'll come in this way. She'll dress up as a guy, she'll dress up as a girl. She's, very, very liberal, very spiritual, very Native American spiritually, but ethnically not. But, she's black, but she's not really black, but, her mom might have been. And she's going to run our Twitter page. And you're like, wait, so if one day she comes in as a guy and one day she comes as a girl, like a cross-dresser or like a, what's it called? And then they're like, you're fired. And you're like, I was just trying to like figure out what the deal is. No, two-spirited. They're like, get it right. Yeah, there are people who do that. There is trans feminine, there is this, but then there's two-spirited, which is you feel different ways and you're connected to the spirits of the Native Americans. And I'm like, I'm just trying to post things on social media. Like, I'm just here to use my expertise. They're like, oh, you want to mansplain this? Oh, you want to mansplain this? We have the best social media. We post about a lot of things on this Twitter. It's like, is that something's got to be going on at these companies? Because it's not like every company, every sports team, they're all compromised. They're all liberal. They're all run by the stupidest person in the world. I don't understand it. Maybe you guys could tell me how did it get this bad? Am I onto something? Am I just being funny, but not actually really like nailing it? I'm not sure. They force people like Taylor Swift on us. Yeah. I feel like all the, call me a conspiracy theorist. And some people think I'm not fun. I think I'm a really fun guy. You know what I'm saying? I think I'm like, woo, but no, I mean, people think I'm like lame because I'm like, every movie's propaganda, every pop star's making chicks into feminists. Like, nobody wants to, they're like, oh, this guy's no fun. But it's like, if a chick says to me, like, I love Taylor Swift, I'm just thinking like, oh no, it's not that her music's terrible. It's just like her whole vibe is like, I hate my ex, la, 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 la. My ex-boyfriend is mean. It's like, get over it, get married. Find a new boyfriend. You have a new boyfriend or, Travis Kelce, whatever. Hopefully you guys get married, have kids, and then stop talking about your ex-boyfriend. Anytime I see anyone talk about their ex on Instagram, to me, it means I'm hurt and I just can't get over it. And then I think to myself, you're the problem because you can't stop talking about it. Like, maybe it's you. It's like all the pop stars that like girls listen to now, they're all like programming them to just be like annoying. Yeah. Like, they're like, I'm a girl boss. I'm mad all the time at my ex. It's like, why? Especially like, if you're super ugly or something, then I'm not saying you should be mad at your ex either, but it's like, especially if you're like, you're in your prime, you got a lot to offer. You have a good personality. Like, why even think about your ex? Why not just move on to the next thing, find somebody you like and make it last forever? Why like spend 7 years listening to like la 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 Taylor Swift music? I don't get it, but that's the world we live in, Taylor Swift, liberal social media people, they run everything, dude. We don't have anything out here. We have like Kid Rock and, he's even kind of sus sometimes. But someone said, my friend said she's a witch. Really, dog? Yeah, it's like, if you reject Christ, you just start getting into like witchcraft. You're like, I could summon the spirits from my card deck. It's like, all right, whatever, lady. But also you could just like go to the gym and, eat seed oil free foods and just be like a chick that, I don't know. No, you got to be a witch. To each their own. I don't know, but it feels like the witch population's rising and the, I mean, the fitness population is too, but like, I don't know. It's a weird world. Someone said red hair phase. Well, why you got to throw red hair girls under the bus? That's rude. Someone said ball with the ball, the dang, diggy, diggy, Kid Rock. That is, that's a very classic American quote. When Kid Rock said ball with the ball, the bang, the dang, diggy, 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 said the boogie, I almost, a tear came to my eyes, my Caucasianness just shed a tear for that poetry. That's like Frederick Douglass for white people, that line. So, it means a lot to us. Maybe you can understand, maybe you can't, but that's okay. Someone said, make USA love immigrants again. I don't know that people don't love immigrants. I just think that people are like, don't want open borders and they don't want to live in a foreign country. Like, I don't want to go to a mall and have it look like I'm in a foreign country. Just like I don't want to go to Japan and have it look like India. And I don't want to go to India and have it look like Africa. And I don't want to go to Spain and have it look like Middle East. Like, there's always going to be cities where everybody does stuff, but the whole country doesn't need to be something else. They always say, we're making it this way. And it's like, okay, but it's better that way. If you say so. I mean, I don't think so. So do most people, but you're not supposed to say that. So nobody says anything. And then we just have a bunch of weirdos running every social media account for like the Yankees. And they're like, I appreciate this sexuality. It's like, dude, you're playing baseball. You're not Rosa Parks. You're not Martin Luther King. And I don't even know now if Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King were who they said they were. But, everyone's got to be Martin Luther King. Okay. Someone said, if you don't like foreigners, then go abroad. What? That doesn't even make sense. Like, from the definition, if you don't like foreigners, go abroad. Abroad is foreign by definition. So like every land, if you're an American, every land is foreign besides here. So that I get what you're saying, but nah. But yeah, I mean, eventually people might have to leave. It's like you leave LA, you leave New York City, you run away from that. Maybe eventually you have to run away from America and go somewhere else. It's possible. I don't know. We'll see. Someone said Iran is kicking Israel's butt. I don't know. I feel like Israel's probably doing more damage, but Israel's got hit harder than they've ever got hit before. Like, they've never, all their other wars, they usually go after people that are like stand no chance. Like Palestine, they're just slaughtering them. And then if you say they're doing that, that's blood libel according to them, even though it's just a fact. Lebanon, they took them out easily. Like the Hezbollah stood no chance, But Iran, this is why people talk about World War III. China apparently is helping Iran. Russia has helped Iran. So we're starting to now beef with Russia through Ukraine. And that's what the Ukraine war was always about, by the way, folks. Like, everything we do is essentially for the thing you're not supposed to say, that they pass speech laws for. Like, we were trying to weaken Russia on a multi-front war, hoping that it made it easier for us to go after Iran. They've had this war. They've had this for 20 years. That's why they all want to fight China. China is behind Iran to some extent. They don't care about China. China, for the most part, is, compared to other parts of the world, it's a civilized society. It's not where I want to live, but it's, they build stuff. They don't commit that many crimes. They're definitely a little sneaky and, a lot of air pollution and stuff. It's not a place I really want to go, but they're the number one enemy of the world. No, they're just not a total pushover like everyone else. And they're willing to, stand up to America sometimes. Someone said the UK and France on their side against Egypt. They had the UK and France on their side against Egypt. They're probably still going to have people on their side, but this is now a question for America, Europe. Like, how deep do you really want to get in this? And here's my opinion. I'll just let you know, since I talked about a lot of stuff. This might not be popular to some. To some, they might like this, but I'm just being honest. I think Israel has a right to exist. I'm not somebody that says they shouldn't exist. I don't care, and I don't think I run the world. So I think that Israel and Palestine has a right to exist, and they have a right to be pissed off at each other. And it's not really my business. I'm not in the business of drawing up countries and telling people what country is theirs or isn't theirs. With that being said, I'm not mandated to have to agree with Israel on everything. Just because I believe they can exist and they can defend themselves, it doesn't mean I think they're right all the time. And since they're our ally, they get the most taxpayer money from us. They pretty much, in my opinion, control our Congress. Through lobbying and potentially other means. It seems like our entire Congress works for them. Everybody hates all the neocons, right? Like, if you talk to MAGA, even the ones that are super boomer Zionists, they'll be like, I hate Lindsey Graham. I hate Mike Pence. have you not figured out who they work for? Like, what country do you think they worship and tweet about and talk about and fly to more than anything? It's Israel. So I just find it fascinating that the boomer Zionists like hate Mike Pence and Lindsey Graham, but they can't figure out who they're working for. Same with Tom Cotton. That guy is like beyond compromised or beyond a sellout. And it's like all of our Congresses, except for like 4 people that Trump mysteriously keeps trying to throw out of Congress. So it's one of those things where, I just think that even though I believe they have a right to exist and they have a right to defend themselves, we also have a right to disagree with them and speak our mind in America. And my thought is that they just get in a lot of trouble. And I don't, I hope that they figure it out between Iran, and I hope that they could figure out world peace, but I'm fully, just based on history, based on everything I'm seeing, I'm not convinced that Israel will ever stop. Like, they got a country, right? And I said this in my last stream, but I'm just going to repeat it because I think it's profound and true, or else I wouldn't say it. If you talk to Israelis, not all of them, and I like Israelis, and I'm not saying Netanyahu represents everybody, but if you talk to the, Israel, which is the Jewish state, a lot of them will say, people that support them and people that feel connected to them spiritually, racially, religiously, they'll say for thousands of years, everybody's been anti-Semitic since the times of Jesus, and everybody's hated us everywhere. It's a really crazy story of what they've gone through. So then it's like, after World War II, they get their own country. It's a miracle. It's whatever you want to call it. It's like, okay, well, now instead of being scattered amongst the countries, they get their own country. And I want to say, with sympathy and compassion, a lot of people are critical of Israelis in Israel, and I understand why. You have to think about, though, and this is just me being thoughtful to them, what it would be like to be an ethnicity not in your own land. Like, before Israel, they were everywhere, and then everybody was very nationalistic, very racial, and it's like they stuck out like a sore thumb in every country because they're in Italy, they're in Germany, they're in America, and everybody kind of has a group. America's a little different because it's like mixed European, but you understand what I'm saying? Like, everyone had a specific ethnicity, yet Jewish people had an ethnic group that were scattered everywhere. They had spread everywhere, and they always, not everybody, because even now, like, a lot of Jewish people don't feel connected to Israel, but in general, a lot of people, they wanted their own nation, and I could understand that. Like, imagine being a race where you didn't have like a home base. That's something that a lot of people haven't had to deal with throughout history. So they get Israel, right? And it's this miracle. It's this beautiful thing because now they have a home base. Now, if people do feel a spiritual ethnic connection to that, to Jewish, they have a place to go. Within 50, 60 years, they've become basically like one of the most controversial and perhaps war involved countries in the world. Maybe it's because they started at a disadvantage and they were in a land where everybody didn't like them. Maybe it's because of their own actions. I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I could say that I think the narrative that I used to believe when I came over to the right, like I used to believe like Prager and Ben Shapiro, I never really liked them, but that was what I kept hearing from everybody, Fox, Prager. They kept telling me these narratives that I actually believed. And I was like, well, everybody doesn't like them and doesn't want them to exist. So they have to defend themselves and they just want that land. They don't want to expand. That wasn't true. They've always wanted to expand. But, it's like, on one hand, maybe that's true, right? Maybe everyone's always just been mean to them. But if you look at how little, and I'm not trying to be rude, I'm just trying to be realistic, and I can apply this to other groups as well in other countries, the total lack of self-awareness and self-accountability. Like, if I were to say I agree with 99% of what they say, I just don't like that they're killing kids, they would say that's blood libel and anti-Semitism. So it's like they take no accountability. They only want you as an ally if you 100% agree with everything they ever say or do. And if you have any disagreements with them, they basically just cast you aside and call you names. So it's like I could see how, through the last 50, 60, 70 years, they've probably created a lot of enemies as well. Yeah, you could say some people just didn't like them, but, they, like, if you talk to a lot of people that are pro-Israel, they will say the same things about me. They'll be like, Anomaly's so hateful. I'm not. Anomaly thinks this. I don't. Anomaly's just random. No, I'm not. I'm not hateful. I don't hate you. I think you have a right to exist. I think you're very talented people. I think very smart, doing a lot of great things, earned a lot of things on your own merit. I'm not a hater of any group, any religion, any ethnicity. And I do think that whether you talk about Israelis who are great builders in many ways and do a lot of great things, good at technology, very smart, or just Jewish people around the world, which are, not a monolith, but are also exceeding in a lot of industries and in many ways are very good at a lot of things. I think it's a talented group of people that can be very awesome. I just have to be honest. It's like also, I know from personal experience, even though I could compliment and show love, most people that are pro-Israel will say that I'm anti-Semitic. They'll say that I hate them, that I'm this, that I'm that. So it's like just how they've treated me in my own country, in the press, etc. They've basically, done a lot of really messed up stuff to me out of defense, thinking I'm being mean to them. I understand, there's misinterprets and some people are defensive. Like I understand. But I'm just not everybody, because there's a lot of great Jewish people in my life and a lot of Israelis that I like. But like for the most part, I see how they act towards everybody, where it's like they take no accountability. They freak out at you. They call you names. They say you're doing something you're not doing. And then you end up being like, yeah, I don't like that. And the second you say you don't like that, then they say you don't like that. So it's like, if they're doing what they did to me to everybody else, then yeah, I could see why they're causing a lot of issues on their own. Like it's not like everyone just woke up one day and decided to not like them because they don't fit in the Middle East. Possibly. It's definitely possible. The Middle East is a crazy place. It has a history of war. So it's definitely possible. But I just feel like they constantly create enemies. They constantly fight, and they constantly don't want to own up to any of it. And, there are people that are talking about it. Haaretz mentions it all the time. Like they report on a lot of this stuff. And, they were sanctioned by Netanyahu, and most Israelis think that they're a far left publication and don't like them. But when I read them, I feel like they're doing actual journalism about the state of Israel. But most people in that country, they don't want to hear journalism about them. They just want to hear that everything's blood libel. They're the victim and everybody else is bad. Acting that way makes people not like that. So, I don't know where it started or when, but my guess is they went to the Middle East and there were some problems there, and they probably caused more. And, I say all this to say, if they beat Iran or somehow like that ends, are they ever going to stop? Like some people think, oh, once we destroy Palestine with them, then Hamas is dead and then it's peace. It's like, maybe, but also maybe Israel never stops and they constantly get us in trouble and they constantly fight people and we're attached at the hip with them and it weighs down on us. Like that's also a possibility. I'm not speaking in definites because I don't know, but I lean towards the second one. I don't believe that they're just going to destroy, basically like controlled demolition Gaza, take it, and then they're going to be at peace. I think they're always starting issues with everybody and it's never going to stop. Like that's where the evidence leads me. And I think that about other groups too. Like I just do. Wendy said the only news show I'll watch. Thank you, Wendy. I appreciate it. In America, there's a lot of like racial discussions and, you listen to the media and they'll constantly just like, do all sorts of diversity things and be like, we're making this area not white and white people are bad. And this like, I'm not playing the victim. I'm just saying like the mainstream narrative is like white people are doing all these problems. And then like other ethnic groups are basically innocent victims. And when we do all this, like it's going to be better. And I look at it and I'm like, there's a lot of groups that are taking no accountability. They're doing too many messed up things. They're not getting out of bad situations and they're gatekeeping their own demise. And I don't want to have to pretend like I don't see that that's happening. I think self-accountability and self-awareness is important for every group, every racial group, every nation. And, the people who lack it the most are the ones who keep having problems over and over and over again. On an individual level, I just talked about like women that complain about their ex the most. It's a psychological thing. It's like when women are posting on Instagram about their ex every day for years, they're basically taking no accountability, living in that moment and not allowing to grow out of it because they're like stuck in this moment where then I believe, oh, you're probably the problem if you're posting about it. I've had multiple exes over the last 10 years. I don't talk about my private life that often, but like, you don't hear me crying about my ex-girlfriends because it's, I take accountability. I'm a man. So it's like, sometimes I was at fault. Sometimes it just wasn't the right fit. Sometimes the timing wasn't right. I don't blame any woman I was ever with. Like I don't have energy or time. Like my life is good and everything is what it was for a reason. And I move on. and groups that don't do that, that's like a lot, like they're constantly making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. And then they play the victim, and it's like, you got to stop doing that, or else you're just going to get those same results. I feel that about a lot of people. And once again, I've talked about different ethnic groups. I've talked about Israel. For America, I believe the same thing. I think too many Americans got way too comfortable with the economy, with the country, and we're suffering the consequences of multiple generations who just got way too comfortable with a good economy and the safe neighborhoods and cul-de-sacs. And now we're losing all that because it's our fault. Like, I don't think we're the victim of another. Like, that's what happens when you don't pay attention. Like, nothing in this world is guaranteed. Nobody's going to softball you for your whole life. Like, oh, you're just going to live in peace and harmony and economics, but you don't have to think, you don't have to take care of yourself. We're just going to nobody's going to hand it to us. And we're losing it. We created this great civilization. We created this great nation. There's nations all over the world that are great. And a lot of them are falling apart because the population got too comfortable, too liberal, and too naive, and that's what happens to naive, comfortable people. And in this country, add in crappy food and pharmaceuticals, and you have a really bad Molotov cocktail, essentially, of just garbage that everybody's filled with. And that doesn't help. But that's just how I feel. Someone said, I trust Farrakhan more than someone like Chuck Schumer or Anthony Weiner. I mean, Farrakhan, Weiner, Schumer. It's an interesting trio. But, I mean, Farrakhan, his speech during COVID was pretty interesting. If you ever see that one, he goes, Dr. Fauci, Bill and Melinda. He was like, he was against the vaccine early. And then Ben Shapiro was like, listen, okay, I'm always the doctor. Listen, the black people will not get the vaccine. I mean, I don't understand it. He's like, if you're a minority, the data said that you should get the vaccine. And then Farrakhan's like, Bill, Melinda, he talks, he's a very epic speaker. I feel like, whether you like him or not, or agree with what he's saying, he's just a very good public speaker. Like, the way he talks, his pronunciation, it's just very epic. Not justifying everything he's ever said or done, but yeah, I mean, I can't imagine ever listening to Chuck Schumer, Anthony Weiner, and being like, yeah, this is good. It's like, dude, there's nothing there. At least Farrakhan will say something interesting once in a while. Or like profound. Like, what is Anthony Weiner like? Name one thing he said that you're like, dang, that was pretty cool. It's like, dude, I don't even know. He has a radio show, but I would never listen to it. Anyway, Katerina said Russian Jews are among the smartest in the world. Could be. I have a Russian Jewish friend, and he's awesome, and he crushes. He started a business, and he wasn't handed anything. Like, it's not like someone just gave it to him and he took over. Like, my friend who's Russian and Jewish, he started a business. He was really cool to me. He always helped me out. He did a music video for me. So I don't know that many Russian Jewish people, but I know a few. And one of them I know is awesome, and he crushes. But I've never been to Russia. Like, I know they have legit like Hasidics out in Russia that are just doing so. I don't know what they're doing with Putin, but it's a culture not really super familiar to me, so I can't fully speak on it. But we like a nice compliment here and there. Someone said Israel is the whitest country in the Middle East. Personally, I think that's why they're so hated by surrounding Muslims. I mean, it's possible. Like I said, I'm not going to rule anything out like everyone else is awesome or something. It could be why they're disliked. It could be their actions, it's debatable. I think in America, a lot of leftists hate Israel because of that, and I'm not saying that they're all like, because Israel does do some messed up stuff that I agree with the left on, but the left, it's like they hate Israel. They're pro-Ukraine. They like vaccine mandates. It's like, a broken clock is right twice a day. So the left that doesn't like Israel, it's hard to believe that they came to that conclusion from like great information, because they're wrong about almost everything else. So I do think there's an element of that, but there's a lot of people that feel that way about different stuff. Even with my show, I call it news analysis. I try to analyze things, because at the end of the day, you could have 10 people that agree on Israel and Palestine for 10 different reasons. like on the left, on the right. You can have people that are pro-Israel for different reasons. You could have someone who's ethnically Jewish and feels connected to it. You could have someone who's Christian and they believe, the Zionist Christianity version, and that's why. And then it's like the Jewish person who feels connected and lives in Israel wants Israel to survive and doesn't believe in Jesus. Most of them don't. And then the Christian loves Israel and worships them, but at the same time thinks they're all going to go to hell when the Messiah comes back. So it's like, I always say, like, both sides, there's a lot of like unholy alliances, people that like and dislike Israel. It's a fascinating topic that brings together people that would never normally be on the same side as each other. So it's interesting stuff. Someone said Mac Lethal. Is that you? You think I'm Mac Lethal, or they're in the comments? I don't think I look anything like that guy, but we both rap. Someone said, there are lots of white people in the Middle East. Iranians have fair skin and blue eyes. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing too, is like there are some lighter skinned Middle Easterns, and I don't think people dislike them. Even like in Lebanon, there's some lighter skinned people. So, anything's possible, but I think that there's always an element of that in the world. But I do think that Israel's actions probably played a huge factor. If only you could do a simulator of like, if you didn't do this, this, and this, like, would people like you or would they not? I don't know. We'll see. Someone said it's a slap in the face to the culture surrounding Israel. They can't seem to stop offending people wherever they go, said Brian. Why is that a slap in the face to culture surrounding them? You mean like just their presence there? It bothered? I'm not sure what you're saying, but I do think, like, I'm not sure if you're really supposed to talk about this, but whatever. Historically, if you listen to people like Randy Fine, who's awful, by the way, that guy's terrible. He said one time, like at some like politician thing, he's like, we've been kicked out of so many hundreds of places and it's never again. And it's like, why though? I've talked about this in my last stream, so I'm not going to get on too much. Like, I don't come, like, my grandfather was discriminated against because he was Italian. Like, I have family that faced discrimination, but they never talked about it much. They never played the victim. And I don't have a history of like, everyone hates us everywhere. Like, I can't relate because nobody said that in my family. And I'm not being rude. I'm just saying, it's like they say that. And then you got to wonder, like, why? And I think I know why. Not supposed to really talk about it, but I'm just going to be honest. I think historically, especially like hundreds of years ago, every culture was very homogenous, So like I said before, they had their own nation. You have a homogenous nation where everybody has a similar religion for the most part. It's not always. There's wars. There's always been, empires falling, Rome. I'm not acting like it's all been perfect, but people are mostly homogenous. And then you have this group that just doesn't quite fit in because they're not the same ethnicity, And so on a actually saying that they're the victim, and agreeing with them in some extent, I'll say that it would be hard for anybody to fit into any sort of like homogenous nation and not eventually like face some sort of blame or feeling like an outsider, right? That's what I'm saying as a compassionate person. On a self-accountability or an accountability tip, I think also if you look historically, they have a knack for, undermining the nation, undermining the group, doing things that is not in the best interest of the nation or the people there. And in many ways doing things that is against it. Like, in America, for example, this is not everybody. And this is like, everybody, like, you're not supposed to say this because they'll just say it's anti-Semitism, but you can find websites bragging about it as if it were an accomplishment. It's like, who was one of the biggest people behind the homosexuality movement in America? Harvey Milk. Who pushed feminism? Like, all these things. I could find a Prager clip because I'm not supposed to say it. I'm not qualified, but Dennis Prager said every ism except for, like, I forget what he said, but he's like, every ism came from like them. That's what Prager said. He's like, this liberalism, this ism, communism. Like, who wrote the communist book? Who was Lenin? Who's Zelensky? Who's Netanyahu? The world's at war right now. Who? I'm sorry, but like, that's just history. You're not supposed to say it, but it's just kind of true, where I think, on a compassionate scale, yeah, it would be hard for anyone to do that. On another scale, a knack for pushing these isms that are against the host nation, and in my opinion, against God, against what I believe is right. Like, I think feminism wasn't good. I think liberalism wasn't good. I think, all these pushes for rainbow stuff, like, and there's a lot of, even like the NAACP and groups like that, like, there's a lot of connections to a lot of things. Divorce lawyers. I mean, a lot of things came from certain people and certain leaders that just so happen to have a certain connection, where maybe it's completely random, and that's just what happens when you're a high achieving person. You do a lot of things, good, bad, like everybody does. Nobody's perfect. But also, like, is that what happened throughout history? I don't know. Like, I can't really speak on every situation everywhere, but it does seem like a lot of that, a lot of undermining the nation, a lot of pushing things that are not what people want, especially Christians and people that don't believe those things. And, I believe listening to enough people, not everyone, because this is not true, but there's a lot of hostility towards Europeans and Christians because of history. And, I live in a world where they say that certain like, they say this group can hate that group. This group can have, historical anger against that group, but this group's not allowed to. So like in America, they'll say, Black people are allowed to feel this way. Mexicans are allowed to feel this way. They could say you took our land. Natives can feel this way. Everyone can feel all these ways except for Europeans sometimes, and it's like everyone can hate you, but you have to just be like, that's not hate. That's righteous because you are allowed to hate. It's like, it's this weird racial thing where like you're only allowed to say certain groups hate other groups, but you're not allowed to say it the other way. I'm never going to speak in generalizations like that group hates that group, because there's nuance to everything. But it's like in America, it seems like the groups who say you can't say it are the ones doing it the most. So it's like, if I could say Europeans don't like you, how come I can't say certain people of you don't like Europeans? How is that fair? It's not. And the reason they don't want you to say these things is because it's true. So there's definitely certain people that have 1,000-year grudge against Europeans and Christians, and they remember certain things that you don't even know happened, and they spiritually feel it and don't like you. That's just like the reality of the situation. So a lot of stuff you're not really supposed to figure out and talk about, but it's, I do believe for any race, for any group, for any country, the way to reconciliation is just to be honest. Like, Black people have to be honest, white people have to be honest, Asians have to be honest, Jewish people have to be honest, Christians have to be honest, Muslims, everybody has to be more honest. And this is me being honest. So, it's like in order to stop issues, you have to be able to openly talk about them, and you're not really allowed to. So history just keeps repeating itself, and nobody wants history to repeat itself for the most part. So what are we doing here? We're just going through the motions and like reliving the same things. Like, I always say to MAGA, the whole QAnon thing, it's interesting because it's like Trump's the savior, you're a special boy with special boy codes, and you're so smart you can read things that people can't see, and they'll give you like 85% truth. So a lot of people fall for this false religion of QAnon because it's like, just trust the plan, just wait. We have history to learn from. And history tells us that the Bolsheviks did Operation Trust to keep conservatives and nationalists and patriots and people who like the country at bay, because they knew that if they knew no one was coming to save them, that they would eventually like stand up for themselves and at bare minimum form a real resistance movement. So you make a fake resistance movement to control the resistance. And QAnon is the same thing as Operation Trust. They said, don't believe your own eyes. Don't believe what you're seeing. Don't believe the data. Believe that generals are helping you behind the scenes to fight the communists and the Bolsheviks. So don't do anything, because if you do something, and I'm not saying to like, not like literally do something, but I'm just saying like, be honest about it. So I'm not asking for like some fake Fed trap like January 6th and stuff. All that stuff is stupid. You don't need to do that. And it's not the solution. It's literally what they want you to do so they can arrest you. But it's the same thing with Operation Trust. It's what's going on now. It's like they're brainwashing 100 million people to believe that there's some sort of secret plan. So it's like, if I do a video and I show you Trump's getting $100 million from this donors. He's not giving out the Epstein files for this reason. He didn't end the Ukraine war. He calls himself the father of the vaccine. He took money from Pfizer. It's not to say you should dislike or hate Trump, but it's like, that's reality. If you understood reality, and if enough of MAGA understood reality, they'd actually challenge Trump. But nobody challenges Trump because they believe this hero worship story of he's the hero, just wait. He has a plan. He always has a plan. It's the same thing as Operation Trust. History keeps repeating itself because it works, because nobody learns from history. So part of me being so honest is to try to create more peace, because if you're not honest, if every racial group wants to take no accountability, if every racial group wants to lie, if every country wants to say they didn't do it when they did and pass speech laws, it's just going to be more of the same. And what do we have right now? We have a war in Russia and Ukraine, a war in Israel, Palestine, Iran. We should be embarrassed. War is childish at this point. It's like we have so much technology. We're still fighting over what? Who's starting this? Who's really fueling the fires of this? Civilized people should be above this, but we're not, and we got to be honest, or else it's just going to keep happening on loop. This needs to stop. I don't know how long or where they think this war is going, but they gotta negotiate, or else it's not going to be good for anybody. Someone said, this is interesting. I don't know exactly what you're referring to, but I do agree. Someone said it's not Operation Trust, it's Operation Gladio, that they make the Democrats look as stupid as possible so everyone will support Trump. I don't know what Operation Gladio is, but I will say I do think that's what they're doing for sure. Because when you talk to somebody that's not advanced, I don't know, that sounds super douchey, like, welcome to the advanced club. You're not in it. Not like, but you know what I'm saying? People that are very simple and to be honest, kind of dumb, they'll be like, but the left, it's like, if you make the left crazy, anything's better than that. So it's like, if you could make the left so bad, so dumb, so Bolshevik, so stupid, then Trump seems like an improvement, because he is an improvement. So one of the things I always hear when I talk about Operation Warp Speed is Republicans will say, well, at least Trump didn't mandate it. You can call it what you want, but that's Operation whatever. It's like, make the Democrats so bad. If there was no Democrats mandating vaccines, everyone would be like, yeah, giving a bunch of money to Regeneron, giving a bunch of money to Pfizer, giving or buying their doses, and doing basically socialism and communism for the pharmaceutical industry and warp speeding it through FDA approval. Like, that would be seen as insane. But it's not insane, because the Democrats do all of that and more, and they're letting the cities burn down, and they want to mandate it. So now you got a bunch of people who run back into the arms of Trump, and they're like, Trump's going to save me, but he caused the problem. No, it was the left. They're for sure doing that. Like, you destroy one side and make them so shitty, then anyone else seems like a massive improvement. And, I voted for Trump, and like I said, some people hate that I did, but I think he's slightly better, but I don't think I'm not as pumped about him as everybody else is. I'm not like, he's my hero. No, he's still the father of the vaccine. I still don't trust him. I still think he should be challenged. I still think he's a con artist in many ways, but he's our con artist. He's better than Kamala, and he's more pro-America sort of. And, he'll do a few good things, but I'm not delusional. Like, they almost got him, so now I have to worship him. They almost threw him in jail with Letitia James, so we got to give him 4 more years. It's like, yeah, I want him to win, but I'm not thinking he's going to do all these things that he's not. I believe that the only way Trump's actually going to do something is if people realize that he's not who they think he is and hold him accountable. If everybody just like plays this game, it's not going anywhere. Someone said, did I see that Nick Fuente's show is being aired on Iranian television? No, I did not see that. It's pretty wild. Someone said Democrats and Republicans are largely controlled by Zionists. At the party level, absolutely. But there's this like fake left and right thing where at the party level, that's for sure happening. But at the lower level, the Democrats are kind of Bolshevik too, where like, once again, I was just trying to talk to my friend about this because he was asking about it. He's like, how is the left Bolshevik and the right Zionist when the left is also Zionist? It's like, yeah, it's hard to explain, but I feel like the left, like they're the same. It's like the two wings of the same bird, except like the left version is like destroy America, leave the borders open, sell vaccines, but at the same time, keep funding Israel and allow their wars. Remember, the Israel-Palestine situation broke out during Biden, and Biden did nothing to stop it. He funded them. And then you watch Zionist media on the right, and they'll tell you on Fox, Biden's pro-Israel, or I'm sorry, he's pro-Palestine. It's the same thing they do by making the left so bad that you think the right is your savior, and then you'll accept crappy things from the right because the left is so bad. It's the same thing they do with the press. Like, Biden is pro-Israel. Biden calls himself a Zionist. Biden funded them. Biden didn't stop them whatsoever. He threw a few aid packages to Palestine, but it didn't help. They still control demolition in their cities. And then you listen to Zionist news, and they'll act like Biden isn't a Zionist too. So it's like, yeah, he's a Bolshevik, but the top brass of the Bolsheviks are also Zionists. It's like, do you want to do this and destroy your country, or do you want to do this and destroy your country slightly less? It's like, yeah, slightly less. I'll take Trump. But Trump supporters think it's like, do you want to make America great again and fix the whole world, or do you want Joe Biden? It's like, that's not really the dynamic. They play off each other to create this false illusion. And you have to, it's going to be hard to find anybody that doesn't just like regurgitate their propaganda on mainstream media or even a lot of the podcast circuits. I mean, if you want to know who's being honest about it, just look at everybody who got fired. Tucker Carlson, fired. Candace Owens, fired. There's two of the biggest stars. Candace Owens is literally probably the biggest star in Republican politics. She got fired at the top of her game for essentially being honest about this. Tucker Carlson was the #1 show on television, and they still fired him. Do you get it? It's not even about ratings. Yeah, they want to make money, but they have a narrative to push. If you didn't have a narrative to push and you wanted to allow both sides, because Tucker doesn't even sound like anybody on Fox News. So it's like you got all these propagandists and one Tucker Carlson. Do you get it? Top guy, fired. Top star, fired. They can't allow you to know this stuff because they know it's popular. It's not like it wouldn't be. It is popular. Tucker is the biggest show. Candace is the biggest star. They know that they need to control the press and they need to control fake opposition media. And now they're starting to plant people in the podcast circuit that you guys think are like outsiders. They need to do that because if they don't, everyone in America on the right's going to agree with Candace Owens and Tucker, because it's like no one can debate Tucker Carlson and beat them in the sense of like the people that think he sucks because of that. Candace is not losing debates to these people. They can't win. They can't allow you to see both sides, because if you see both sides, they're making a lot more sense than the other side. They need to get these people out of your way. Even though Tucker's got a big podcast, it was a huge loss to have him off the television because he was the only one against war with Iran. He was the only one, speaking interesting stuff at the end of lockdowns. Like they needed to get him out of the way. Now it's like, oh, I'm getting opinions from Sean Hannity, and then I get the news from Brett Baier. It's like, you're not getting the news. You're getting the script. Tucker was giving you a counter to the script, so they kicked him off. Like, I can't even believe that people actually think Brett Baier is just like giving them news. It's like, I mean, there's two people I do like at Fox. I like Bill Malugin. I like Trey Yingst. I think they do solid journalism, but everybody else is just whatever to me. Let's see. We'll look at a few more, and then we'll try to keep it under like 135. Someone said Biden was a clone, Pocahontas, controller of the auto pen. Whether he's a clone or not, I mean, I don't think so, but whether he's a clone or not, Elizabeth Warren is not the ringleader of the circus. If you're thinking Elizabeth Warren's puppeting Joe Biden, you're 50 steps behind. Who's puppeting Elizabeth Warren? Who's puppeting the people puppeting Elizabeth Warren? That's the real question, not it's Obama and Elizabeth Warren. It's like, bro, that's like saying it's John Fetterman. It's John Fetterman. Dude, John Fetterman is the next senile puppet in line. He's a little more moderate, on some topics, which is appreciated, but he's also a clown. Someone said Farrakhan is a horrible racist. You're entitled to that opinion. I think he definitely has some unpopular race-based opinions, including about my ethnicity, but I don't use the word racist because it doesn't really mean anything. Just like that is mean because I said so. It's like, okay, maybe not. Like I personally think that Farrakhan is wrong, and I disagree with him about some race-based commentary, or at least some of it, but I wouldn't call him a racist. I mean, you can, but I just think that's a dumb word. It's racist. Everything's right. It's like, sure. Okay. Yeah. It's xenophobic. Just say what you mean. Like, I could get into specifics where I'm like, I agree with that. I agree with that. I disagree with that. I agree with that, But one of my favorite interviews of all time is Farrakhan on Mike Wallace, 60 Minutes. Find that one. One of the best interviews of all time. Foreshadowing every war. It's fascinating stuff. I mean, that's whether you like him or not, whether you think he's a racist or not. Find that Mike Wallace, Farrakhan, the full interview. It's like 20, 30 minutes. It's one of the best historical interviews, in my opinion, just because it's so interesting. And it's talking about Libya. It's talking about Saddam. It's foreshadowing everything. History literally just keeps repeating itself. It's just we keep thinking it's like brand new. But anyway. It's a dumb word. Yeah. Oh, I explain it sometimes, but it's like, it just means you're wrong, I'm right, you're bad, I'm good, you're hateful, I'm not, but it doesn't explain why. So if you just say it's racist, it's like Trump's racist. Kamala Harris is racist. You're the real race. It's like, what are we doing? We're not being specific about anything. It's such a general term that just doesn't mean anything. Like, what about what she said? Not every race-based opinion is racist, unless it is, and like that's what the word means. But like, if someone has a race-based opinion, it might be wrong, it might be right, it might be a bad opinion, it might be a good opinion, but it just, like, that word just covers up any discussion around it and just assumes that it's bad. Someone said, I'd say he's hyper black. He's definitely very black. I mean, he's actually part white, to be honest, which is kind of wild. So it's like, show some love to the little bit of Caucasian you have in you. But no, he is definitely pro-black at times, but not racist. I don't know. I mean, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I just think you don't have to like him or agree with what he says, but I think it's just better to like not use that word because it just doesn't go anywhere and shuts down discussion. Yeah, the Malcolm X stuff is interesting, though. I like the connection between him and that. I've seen different opinions on that. Let's see. Someone said a divided nation is a conquered nation. It's the federal government getting more control, all while it's great for a foreign nation. Here's another thing, too. It's like, yeah, if we're going to really go to war with Russia and Iran and China, like, do we have a nation that's ready for that? Like, we can't even get along in the streets of Los Angeles. People want illegal immigrants to stay, including Trump. Every day, Trump's like, they need to go. They need to stay. The ones in the restaurant industry need to stay. Wait, no, they need to go. It's like the dude, like Trump cracks me up because he's just like, I just see him as a clown now. I don't know. I used to really look up to Trump and I used to really like him from like 2016 to 2019. And once he started selling the vaccine, my hero opinion of him just went away, where I saw him for who he was, not for who I wanted him to be. And I feel like everybody just sees him. They see who they wish he was in him. But if you really just see Trump for who he is, he's like kind of a clown. He kind of is a clown. And it's like, I saw him post that he wants to get rid of, illegals. Then he didn't, then he does, then he doesn't. And it's like, he literally told ICE to stop deporting illegals in certain industries. And then Massey was like, should illegals just work in meat packing and hotels now? Like, it's like, if they work in those industries, they're not illegal now. It's, and I understand. I do get the economics of it. I'm not, I get it. But at the same time, he just says both sides of the arguments every day. Literally, he went from deport them all, keep these ones, deport them all, keep these ones, deport them. It's just like, he's just like, oh, he's like, I wasn't in on the attack. I wasn't on the attack. I helped them. I didn't help them. We're out of it. We're in it, but we're out of it. It's like, it's just a clown show. I just can't believe Republicans still think he's like this hero. It's so obvious at this point. And I know people in politics, either you completely ride his coattails and you become like the new Rhino, or you just like don't, you question all the things that he questions, but you don't question him because he's a powerful guy. I understand it. Like, I get it's a smart career move, but I feel like everybody's either faking it to like save face, or they're just like lying to themselves about it, because it's a better story if Trump's like a hero, where they're always like, it's all his advisors, but not him. It's like, at a certain point, I'm just wondering when everybody's going to admit he's just not who they pretend he was. Everyone was doing it 4 years ago when he was running around selling the vaccine. Tim Pool, Crowder, they were all basically like, Trump kind of sucks now. And then once he got arrested, they're like, wait, no, he doesn't suck anymore. And it's like, did you just forget what you said 3 weeks ago? I'm not saying you can't vote for him, but I do feel like everybody's so fake. And in a weird way, I'm grateful everybody's so fake, because it makes me stand out that much more. And I'm not trying to. I'm just saying it's like it's why I do what I do. It's why I feel good about my show. It's why I feel like a lot of people watch it. I feel like it's even though I'm very popular, I feel like it's an underrated show. Because when I look at the competition, I'm just not impressed. People will comment on my thing. They'll be like, Did you hear what the 2 CIA people said? Yeah, that's where I'm not. It's not like I dislike someone necessarily because they used to work for the CIA, but the last thing I'm going to do is listen to 2 CIA people talking on a podcast and believe it, especially when I go to one of their Twitters and it's filled with like literally propaganda that looks like it's Ben Shapiro's Twitter feed. Oh yeah, that's where I'm getting my deep into. It's like, dude, this is my competition. It's a bunch of former feds that may or may not still work for the federal government, like doing these like limited hangout controlled, like, oh, we're going after Obama and Benghazi, but we're also like Ben Shapiro. It's like, okay, enough. Or people are just playing pretend. Carolyn on Facebook said, yes, Trump is a clown. I believe he doesn't know what's going on in this country unless one of his sycophants tell him he's so out of touch. His lies are outrageous and his words are insane. I think he can only do so much. Like, I feel like Trump is just kind of a puppet, but he's like a free range puppet where like he has, his puppet master lets him like run a little bit. So he's like running and then he'll get yanked back. So I feel like that's his role. Like, he's allowed to go on TV and talk to Zelensky, but he's not allowed to do that to Netanyahu. You know what I'm saying? So he could be like, you don't have the cards, Zelensky. Don't tell me that. But then Netanyahu does the same thing and Trump doesn't say anything because Trump is like a free range puppet. He has enough range to like criticize Zelensky and say he doesn't have the cards, but he doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough of his own sovereignty to stop the war. He doesn't have enough control. Like, if you take anything from this and you like Trump, here's my nicest opinion. He doesn't have the cards. I said it last time. I'm going to say it again. He doesn't have the cards. He doesn't have the cards against Zelensky because Zelensky and Netanyahu, there's a connection there. I'm not saying they're like best friends or anything, but it's like the same entity that wants us to fight in Russia is the same entity that constantly Mike Pence's us and Lindsey Graham's us into everything Israel wants to do. So Trump has enough power to talk about Zelensky, but he didn't have enough power to stop the war. He doesn't have enough power to negotiate peace between Israel. He has enough power to dance, and do that YMCA for Republicans. He's like, young men, young adult. It's like, dude, he has the power to like stand at the UFC, but he can't stop these wars. So if you like Trump, I feel like the best thing you could say is that he just doesn't have the power that he pretends to have. He just has enough power to do a few domestic things and also dance and put on a show for you. So you think he's actually doing something. Let's just say it's not his fault. That's the nicest thing I could think of. It's not his fault. He doesn't have power. He's just the U.S. president's just a figurehead for the bankers and the military industrial complex in order to just like talk to you. If you look at some things Biden did too, like he did a few outrageous, terrible things, but it's like they're mostly doing a lot of similar stuff. They're just putting out rhetoric that pisses people off or makes the left happy or makes the right mad so they can get votes. That's all they're doing. They're like actors. It's like, I'm going to stop the war, but I'm going to start it, but I'm going to stop it. But I want peace, but I'm not peace, but I'm in on it, but I'm not in on it, but I'm funding them, but it's not our war, but don't attack us. But I did help them attack them, but I didn't help. It's like whatever he has to say, he talks out of both sides of his mouth. He's like, deport them all. But then he tells ICE to not deport people who work in 4 different industries. So, he has to say deport them all or else MAGA gets mad because they want to deport all illegals. And they were told for years, an illegal is an illegal. If you're in the country illegally, you're a criminal because you committed that crime. But then Trump talks to his corporate friends and they say, Trump, we don't have enough people to farm and work in hotels because nobody wants these jobs. So then Trump comes back and says, you know what, don't deport those. But then he says deport them to the people that think he's going to deport. Like, he's just playing all sides. He's a very big corporate shill in a way too. Like, when he was doing all these tariffs, he says, I'm doing these tariffs. But then when all the big companies, Apple, et cetera, they come to him and say, Trump, this is going to cost us a fortune. We have to get our chips over here. We got to get this. Trump then says, well, the tariffs aren't for them. So who are the tariffs for? They're not for Apple, but they're for a mom and pop shop that buys stuff from China. Like, how is that fair? Like, a mom and pop shop suffers just as much as China. But if a mom and pop shop has to eat $100,000 fee or go bankrupt, Trump doesn't give a shit because they're not on the NASDAQ. They don't have tens of thousands of jobs. So it's like, I'm indifferent on the tariffs because I get both sides of it. There's pros, there's cons. It doesn't really affect me, but maybe it will in the future. I see both sides of the tariffs. With that being said, I think it's very unfair to only give tariffs to normal people, but not give tariffs to all the big companies. And that's what Trump did. He's a clown. He, like, all the companies came to him and said, we can't afford this. So then he said, there's exceptions to the tariffs. This company gets an exception. This company gets an exception. This company gets an exception. Then what are they? Working class tariffs, mom and pop shop tariffs, small business tariffs? Are you only going to give it to the small guys? Like, that's who Trump is, though. He's a clown. He's a circus clown who does what he thinks people want to hear, and sometimes he has some innovative ideas, but he's really not like this heroic genius. He's kind of just like a very charismatic, very believable, very honest, very likable puppet. He's not doing what other presidents have done. Like, I mean, JFK tried to do something and see what happened to him. Nixon said a lot of things on the Nixon tapes. Like, you don't hear Trump saying any of that stuff. So Trump is very honest and real because we're surrounded by the fakest people in probably world history, and we're being ruled by psychopaths. So, like, Trump seems so real because everybody else is so fake. Listen to the Nixon tapes. That guy was saying way edgier stuff than Trump about every race. Like, dude, Nixon did not give a crap. So it's like, oh, Trump's the realest person ever. I don't know. I think Nixon was keeping it a little bit realer, and that's why he got kicked out. So yeah, Trump's realer than Kamala. Trump's realer than Joe Biden. But, 20 years ago, even Democrats were pretty honest. Like, they talked about crime. They were like, yo, there's too many criminals out here. Build a wall. They said all that stuff 20 years ago. He's really like a lighter version of Bill Clinton. I think Trump is a weaker on crime, but Bill Clinton, who picks slightly better Supreme Court justices, but not really, but kind of. Trump picked a worse Supreme Court justice than Bush and Bush Jr. Bush and Bush Jr. picked Alito and Clarence Thomas. Those are the best we have. Bush has picked them. So it's like Trump's whole legacy, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but honestly, I believe this. His whole legacy is actually super overrated. He picked shitty Supreme Court justices. In many cases, he picked worse Supreme Court justices than the Bush family. He sold the vaccine. He didn't stop either of the wars. He printed more money than Obama. Trump kind of sucks. Like, I was hoping 4 years, maybe you can turn it around. I'm not doing Biden and Mayorkas, and I stand by my decision. I'd rather roll the dice with Trump than relive that again. But this is my challenge to Trump. Not that he's listening or cares what I say, because people will believe things anyway. His legacy is not good. His first term was disastrous. He was kind of a libtard in many ways. He was doing prison reform. He's just doing all these things, and then he just sells vaccines for the pharmaceutical industry. He prints the money. He passes the CARES Act, which destroyed the country. Then he gets back into office. Didn't stop the war in Ukraine, which I thought he might be able to do. Didn't prevent war with Iran, which I was hoping he could do, but Biden wouldn't have done any difference. So it doesn't really matter. What is he even doing? He's really not. The best thing he probably did this time was put Robert Kennedy in, and Kennedy is actually doing some things. Like, I thought, Kennedy's not perfect. He pissed me off a little bit, but Kennedy's doing some things at the FDA or whatever, the HHS. Trump's really not doing anything. He's probably the most overrated false opposition in history. I think Nixon was realer than Trump. I think Nixon probably did more. I think Bill Clinton was tougher on crime. I think George Bush picked a better Supreme Court justice than Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas, the Bush family. It's like, what did Trump do? Like, what did he do that's so great outside of doing that, like dancing and just like saying? He says great things. He said Zelensky doesn't have the cards, but he doesn't have the cards. He said he was going to end the war in Ukraine, but he didn't. He said he wants a deal with Iran and Israel, but he's not in control, so he couldn't stop that. Like, what is he doing? He says he wants to deport people, but he's not even deporting that many people. He's just making a spectacle out of it so people get pissed off. Other presidents have deported more people. They just don't make a spectacle out of it. Trump makes everything's into a show. If he does it, it's a show. Deportation, it's a show. ICE coming to your neighborhood. Dude, they were deporting people 10, 15 years ago, probably more efficiently, letting less people in. And they just didn't make it news because they didn't want to like rile up the public, you know? Now it's just like, oh, I'm doing this. Sure you are, bro. He's like a ringleader of like a massive PR campaign to trick Republicans into doing stuff. I say all this by saying I hope he does better in the last 2 years, because his base will think he did such a good job. Or they'll say he got tricked by his advisors. But if he doesn't turn it around, he's actually a garbage president. There's my unpopular opinion. That's true. His first 4 terms, the big talking point 2 years ago is everyone would say, dude, he did a really good job the first 3 years. Okay, well, Tom Brady threw 5 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters and he was up 40-30, but then he ended up losing the game 200-30. Like, that's not a good game. He played really good at the PGA Tour, at the Masters. He was ahead after the 3rd day, and then the 4th day he quadruple bogeyed and ended up in 30th place. Well, he lost. That's not a good tournament. It's a good the first 3 days only matter as much as the end day. Everything happens at the end. His 4th quarter was one of the worst 4th quarters in human history. He parred into foreign spies, sent him home on his donor's jet, took money from Pfizer, bragged about the vaccine, bragged about Moderna, tried to push the FDA to rush it faster, knowing damn well it was probably going to be mandated on a state level and local level. Even if he was president the second time, it just wouldn't have been mandated on the military. It's like, he's horrible. But Biden's like worse. So it's like, now you got Biden and Trump. It's like, shit, do I want Trump again? Biden sucks. I can't. Mayorkas is like a demon leaving the border open purposely to destroy the country. Yeah, I'll roll the dice with Trump. But everything I just said is still true. It's not like I voted for Trump and I'm like, he's a hero. It's like, I hope he does better. That's all you really can do, because Biden for sure is going to screw everything over. And then Trump gets in and he's not doing shit again. So it's not to say I'm shocked, but I think if everybody said this, if every Republican influencer was like, Trump's legacy actually kind of sucks, and if he actually did something, then he could be a great president. But everyone's like, Trump, you're a hero. You're the greatest. Here's my UFC belt, Trump. Oh my gosh. Oh, he did the dance again. Oh my gosh. Oh, he's better than Abe Lincoln. It's like, he has no incentive to do better because everybody treats him like he's a hero. It's like, they almost got him, so that means he's going to do good. I hope so. I mean, I want him to get in office. I'm not asking for Kamala, but I'm not going to pretend like this is a good presidency. It's just whatever. And I told people this months ago. Matt Gaetz is not completely controlled. Coincidentally, Matt Gaetz also was in a huge scandal involving, people that you can't talk about. But it's like, okay, then Matt Gaetz had some issues, and then they pulled Matt Gaetz from the nominee. And then they put Pam Bondi, who was the attorney general in Florida when Epstein lived there, after the Acosta sweetheart deal. And, she was basically like leave her in Florida for 7 years or however long she was there, and she won't look into the Epstein stuff. So they replaced Matt Gaetz, who called out the anti-Semitism speech laws, and Israeli news was having a fit saying, oh my gosh, Matt Gaetz. They were pissed at Matt Gaetz because they know the implications of having an attorney general that's not completely controlled by a foreign country. Then you get Pam Bondi in, who already has experience in not doing anything with the Epstein stuff, who already said she's going to, rule against literally protests in America for a foreign country. It's like, as soon as Pam Bondi was replaced by Gaetz, the average MAGA person is like, oh, that's just what Trump had to do. It's like, sure, but like, that's the end of that, like that once Pam Bondi got in, I was like, yeah, it's over as far as like that angle of it. And of course it's been that. All these other people, they're whatever. I mean, I guess some of them are better than Biden, but I don't know. I just wish MAGA like held him to high standards. I believe, imagine you're a boss, right? And this is hard to say because we're citizens, but technically Trump and these people, they're supposed to be working for us, the taxpayer. Let's just say you were a boss and one of your people was slacking off at work. They weren't doing anything. They weren't showing up, but they were still winning, taking your money, getting a job. Would it hurt you to be like, dude, you're screwing up pretty bad and I don't really like you that much, but I'll give you another chance? That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking for people to fire Donald Trump. I'm just asking for people to hold him accountable. It's like he's supposed to be working for us, yet Republicans drool over him. Why would he ever stop? Like, it's not even, I said this during COVID. I'm like, you could say it's Trump's fault, but it's really Trump supporters' fault because they're allowing this to happen. I like turning point events because it's good to network and everybody's there and businesses and stuff. But as far as the speakers, it's like Republican donor slop the whole time. And like people are in this, like part of me is like, yeah, this is good because now the youth is more conservative and there's a lot of people here and people are organizing and talking. And a lot of people at Turning Point are based, like they're just suppressing what they really think so they can keep a job. But anyway, it's like, not just that, everybody has different opinions, but you like look at, you talk to some people and you're like, okay, this is great. Everybody's conservative and this is a great event, right? But then you listen to the speakers and you watch all the people like starry-eyed and there's like thousands of people like watching Ted Cruz thinking he's a hero. And you're like, this is terrible. Like, I get going to network, but like, you guys actually like Ted Cruz? Like Trump's like Paul McCartney to you guys? Like, it's really sad. It's like people are being brainwashed into just obsessing over these loser politicians, especially Ted Cruz. At least Trump is kind of cool. Ted Cruz sucks. And he's like a star at Turning Point. So, I get why people think this. They're in these worlds where they just worship these people and they think they're fighting the left. I can only do so much, so I'm not going to like cry about it, but maybe I will cry. Maybe I'll break down right now into tears, but I just wish MAGA was a little more skeptical of Trump. That's all. I'm not asking people to go to some weird event. I'm not asking like a Fed trap like January 6th. I'm not asking people to cry or act like Democrats. Peaceful, legal, just like, act like you're not a sheep, and then they won't treat us like that. It's really that simple, but most people don't do it. So what do? We're just, here we are. It does seem like more people are waking up because a lot of people wanted the Ukraine war to end. A lot of people don't seem to support the Israel war. They don't want us to get into the war. And I'll just say this real quick because our country is suffering and it seems like there's no end to it. So I think even a lot of these like Trump worshiping boomers that love Trump, even they don't really want war with Iran because it's like, we don't have money. We're in debt. We're already fighting wars. Like we have the Marines getting deployed to Los Angeles because it's such an unruly crowd who doesn't even like America. We're basically invaded at this point, and all the protesters are saying that this is a foreign country. It's like, yeah, we have the money and manpower to fight a three-front war against China, Russia, and Israel when our country's divided and being destroyed from within. Every city's disgusting at this point. Not every city, but a lot of the major ones. Dude, and this is not to blame Trump, but we all know in 4 years, America's not going to be great again, right? Like we're not on pace to have America great again. And what I'm saying is even the Trump supporting boomers, they agree with me on this, even though they probably low-key hate me, low-key like me. They can listen to this and be like, that's actually true. I'm not saying it's Trump's fault. I'm not saying Democrats are innocent. They're destroying everything. But we all know in 4 years, America's not going to be great again. So what does that tell us? Trump's not on pace to make America great again. We all know it. Even the people that like Trump 1,000 times more than me, he's not on pace to make America great again. It's not even going to come close to being great. If anything, it's just going to be slightly less shitty than if Biden got in, which is why I voted for Trump. I voted for him. I said, Kennedy's an improvement from the losers they have at the HHS and the donor, the pharmaceutical guys. And, Trump will close the border. Those were the two things that I was the most sure about. And even though Kennedy annoyed me a little bit, I still think I was right about those things. Kennedy is making improvements at HHS. Even on his worst day, he's better than who was there. And Trump did close the border. He's not fixing our issue, but he closed it at least, to some extent. I mean, that's really all I like. If you even go watch, I made a video, I didn't endorse Trump, but I said why I voted for him. Those are the two main points I had. I'm like, maybe he'll maybe he can lower down the war in Russia, and maybe that's why they hate him, but he couldn't even do that. I mean, that didn't happen, but I can't remember exactly what I said, but I'm pretty sure I was like, he'll close the border. I think he'll replace Mayorkas with somebody less crappy, and RFK, roll the dice with him. I don't remember being like, Trump's going to fix the country and make it perfect. It's like, I wish, but I don't, like, my expectations were so low that I just didn't expect that. I don't know. I kind of knew he wouldn't do that. Someone said, I have friends my age that say, thank God Trump's saving America. No, I know. Like, as much as I talk about boomers, there's a lot of younger people that feel that way too. And I think online people are waking up, because if you spend enough time in politics online and your IQ is above like 70, you'll eventually get to where I'm at. But in general, it's like there's way more people that aren't commenting on social media all the time. And I feel like sometimes people underestimate, like if you go on Instagram or Twitter, or even sometimes Facebook, most people are kind of catching on to Trump's puppet show to some extent on the right, but most people are not in the comment section. So you talk to your average person, they still like Trump. A lot of people still watch Fox News. They listen to like, podcasts that kind of like softball them. So I would say a majority of Republicans still like Trump. Like, if Trump ran again, let's just say he can live till he was 140 and could unlimitedly run, I think Republicans would vote for him next time too. Like, I don't think Republicans are over him. I even like JD Vance better than Trump, not because I trust JD Vance, but he's younger. He seems more authentic at this point. And it's not that I trust JD, but I feel like Trump just has this cool aura that makes people like everything about him. Like, I don't think JD Vance is as like, oh, we're going to buy everything he says. Like, Trump has this like hero god like aura where people think he's a god, and they don't question him. Like any other Republican doing the same things, his base would be like, nah, JD is controlled by Palantir. Like, people would call it out more. With Trump, it's like, no, trust the plan. Like, he's got to, like, next time we got to run somebody else, and people got to hold them accountable. We can't do like the Trump show for the next 30 years. I'm fully convinced at this point, it's just like Trump is the perfect person for them, because he basically makes the right wing submissive and completely useless because they just run circles around Trump. So it's like, I'd rather JD for the next election. Like, Trump's like, I'm going to run again. Do you notice they constantly do this like carrot on a string? Like, you throw a carrot on a string in front of a horse and they just run and chase it. That's what they do with Trump. Like, he's going to get arrested. Wait, he didn't. The Democrats are going to get him. They didn't. He's going to stop the war. He did it. He's going to deport them, but he's going to keep them. But he's going to deport them. But, he's going to run a third term. There's a way he could run a third term. It's like, why would you want him for a third term? I voted for him in the last two elections, 2020 and 2024. Like, it feels like Trump is like nostalgic for people, and it makes people feel like they're going to fix America, even though America is addicted to pharmaceuticals and obese. And Trump's like, he's just like a Slurpee that's just like easy for people to like suck down. I mean, that sounded super gay, but you get what I'm saying. It's like, he's just like an easy, like nostalgic thing where people are like, third term, dude, grow up. People don't want the MAGA party to end, dude. They want to just drink their high fructose corn syrup, danced, forever. They're like, dude, what if we danced in 2028 too? He's going to be 82 years old. Move on, like, find the next best patriot in his movement and run him, You got to have Trump, dude. Trump's going to be like 120 years old. He's going to be like, and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, he's so strong. He's so good for his age. Yeah, he's great for his age. I would be lucky to be as healthy as Trump at that age. He's great. But like, can we ever get someone else? Or we got to just like it, dude, I feel like the demographics of America are going to be completely shifted. Everybody who doesn't want to live in like a crime-filled Los Angeles like toilet bowl is going to have to like move to the mountains, where it's like literally everywhere is going to be like Los Angeles and San Francisco. The country is going to be destroyed, and people are going to be like, but look at Trump. He's going to be YMCA. It's like, dude, it's 2056. You guys are like, it feels like the MAGA party never wants to end. And it's not out of like, we love the country. It's just out of selfishness. It's like so many people don't have a personality or an identity. It's like, they're like MAGA, it's like, that's who I am. I'm a Trump supporter. It's the same as like someone who hates Trump and it's in their biography. They're like, I hate Trump. If you like Trump, I hate you. It's like, get a life, get a personality, don't you have something else? Every time people yell at me on Facebook, it's like their last 7 profile pictures are Trump pictures. It's like, you don't want this YMCA party to end. You want to be like, it's like, dude, next election, we got to run someone else. JD Vance is not to be trusted, but he's a smooth character. He's super authentic. It seems like he's anti-war. He's just, submissive to the donors like everyone else. I like JD Vance more than Trump, not because I trust him, but it's like, dude, we'll be able to hold JD Vance accountable more. People will be able to call out his bullshit. Trump is like this mythological creature that just like gets away with everything. He's just like a dragon, dude. Nothing he says matters. He's always right. It's just like, it's not good for the party because he really hasn't done that much. I don't know. How do you guys feel? I'm going to read some comments. I've said enough. Do you think he's done a lot? Like, am I missing something that he's done really good? Let me know. Like, tell me in the comments, like, no, I agree. He's kind of not doing that great. Or let me know in the comments if I'm missing some really awesome things that he's just crushing on that you're super pumped about. Someone said, not to be trusted and super authentic. I'm just saying in podcast, he seems to me like he's just as authentic as Trump. But yeah, I don't trust him. I don't know. JD Vance is 100 times more authentic than Tim Walz, but I still don't trust him. If that makes sense to you, then it does. If it doesn't, whatever. I'm moving on. Someone said, why do people keep saying Jewish is a race? Because it is to a lot of people. They're Jewish ethnically, and some people are Jewish religiously. Seth Rogen would tell you he's ethnically Jewish, but he's not Jewish religiously, and he doesn't feel connected to Israel. He's like a liberal Jew who doesn't like Israel. So that's why it is a race for some people. It is a religion for some people. That's why people say it, because it can be an ethnicity and it can be a religion. I found that out. I didn't know that like 5 years ago, but let's see. Let's read. Someone said Vance is a plant by Elon in bed with, I didn't see what you said, but he could be. I just want somebody that Republicans actually want to hold accountable. I don't know what that looks like. But I don't want it to be as bad as like a Mike Pence or something, Like that would not be fun. But like somebody like a JD Vance, like people like him. He's kind of cool. He's got better instinct than Mike Pence, but I don't think people like JD Vance as much as they like Trump. So we just need somebody that's not horrible like Mitt Romney, but also is easier to like dislike, if that makes sense. Someone said it's in your DNA, probably. Someone said I mixed Italian and Jewish. Yeah, I mean, it like I said, it could be a religion or an ethnicity to some people, but is skin color a race? I mean, your ethnicity can determine your skin color, yes, but is skin color a race? I don't know. That's a weird way to frame the question, so I don't really know how to answer it. Someone said he's gaslighting us about inflation being down. Yeah, that's another thing, dude. I hate to go off again on it, but I just hate lying. And when he's like, inflation's down, everything's down, it's like, bro, what are you talking about? Inflation's down from what it was, but like when the currency gets inflated and it's like from 9 to 3% or whatever, like that's down over time, but it's not like down. It would be like if you used to weigh 200 pounds and then you weigh 600 pounds and now you weigh 580 pounds. It's like it's way down. Technically, yeah, 600 to 580 is down, but 5 years ago we were at 200 pounds. So like the damage that Trump and Biden did with inflation is permanent. It's never going away. But yeah, it's definitely down a little bit. But no, he's definitely gaslighting about all the prices. He's a salesman. Someone said, am I single? Adriana said, I am single. If you know, I'm bored of being single. I mean, in my 20s, it was cool. In my 30s, I was being, more picky, but I'm ready for a wife. I mean, I'm not trying to marry the first girl I date, but I'm ready to settle down. I'm ready to have like 10 kids and name them all the same name. I'm going to name them all Henry the first, Henry the second, Henry the third, Henry the fourth. And then I'm going to be like Henry, and then they'll all show up. And then, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I am single right now. Unfortunately, now I feel like a loser. Now you made me feel like a loser in front of 700 people. That's okay. Is that why I shaved? It's a long story why I shave, but also I do shave once in a while. I don't know. I don't like to have my beard out. I like the way it looks, but I don't like to have it out all the time because I don't know. It feels clean. If you just shave it off and like wash your face, it just feels extra clean, you know? I feel like when you have a beard, you can clean it obviously, but it never feels as clean as when you just shave it all off. So I'm not a skin doctor, but I feel like it feels better. Someone said, I'm gonna marry the first girl that talks to me. That's a really good strategy. Just walk outside, dude. Some girl says, hey, you're like, we're getting married. And she's like, 911, please. This guy's trying to marry me. I just said hi to him, walking my dog. You're like, oh, my bad. I got a little carried away. Someone told me to do that on YouTube. Am I in Florida? Maybe, maybe not. Someone said anomaly, and as Trump said the windmills are eating the whales. Dude, that's when Trump, like, dude, he was campaigning so cool. It's always fun to like wish Trump was gonna crush. He's like, the windmills are killing the whales. He's right about that, I believe. I love that little spiel. That's that great Trump. When he's talking about the whales, you just want to make America more whaley again, you know? And then he always stabs you in the back. He's always like, the whales, they're dying. And I'm like, dude, facts. But then he's like, the vaccine. You're like, damn it. You're like, why can't you stop? Let me see. Someone said, why are you hating on Massey? Massey's my favorite politician. I like never hate on Thomas Massey. I mean, if he did something annoying, I might, but I never hate on Massey. People say I like him too much. There's some people that have turned into pretty big haters on Facebook, but I think it's kind of funny. Like one guy has made a meme and it says like, this is what disability looks like sometimes. And it's all like the disability sign. And then he said, this is also what disability looks like. And it's a picture of me. I was going to block him, but to be honest, even though I don't think I'm disabled and I think it's kind of mean, I do think it's actually kind of a funny meme. So he posted every time on my Facebook, and I'm not going to lie, I kind of enjoy it. I think it's funny. Another guy says, every time I post, he'll post and be like, well, what does Thomas Massey think about this? Like he thinks I dick ride Thomas Massey too much. So he's like, what does Thomas Massey think about this? I also think that's funny. So if you're going to hate on me, like if you can make it funny, you know, I might like it. Did I see the RFK AI with Theo Vaughn? No. Someone said, anomaly, you are a high value man. Do not marry the American rebellious woman. Here's my problem. I'm not trying to play like a victim because I feel like it's probably me. Like I think, you know, I'll just get real with you guys since it's 2 hours into the stream. We've talked about politics enough. I know my flaws, right? I got a lot of pros. I'm very athletic. You know, I think I'm a huge catch. I do well. I'm successful. You know, I'm charming. I'm perfect. No, I'm just kidding. But I know I have a lot of pros. I'm definitely very individualistic. You know what I'm saying? I definitely lived a life in my 20s where I didn't even want to marry anybody. Like, it's not like, oh, I was trying to get married young. Dude, I was so focused. I feel like that's why I became what I became. Maybe I could have done it with a wife, but like, I was just like, listen, I'm not letting any girl get in my way of my dreams. I'm achieving my dreams. And it happened. So, you know, I'm glad I did that. But then when you hit your 30s and you get old really fast, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting like, I felt like, I feel fine. I feel healthy. I feel better than I've ever felt. But at the same time, I'm like, shit, I am actually getting old. And I'm not trying to be one of these like 55-year-olds where I'm like, I'm 20. It's like, nah, you're 55. I'm not knocking it. You know, it's good to feel young. And I think a successful guy that has charm can probably get women into his elder years. But I'm not delusional. So it's like, all right, I'm in my 30s. I'm like, okay, I got to think about this a little more. So that's been my issue is I have dated people and stuff, but I'm super picky. I'm super selfish. Like, you know, I don't like drama. I don't like, you know, it doesn't matter how hot a chick is. If there's like crazy drama, it's like, dude, I worked too hard to get here. I'm not ruining my life over some psychopath. And sometimes hot chicks are cool, obviously. Sometimes they can be dramatic because if you're really hot, you can kind of get away with it. And like someone will always want to be with you. So it's like, now that I'm at this point, you know, I have a lot to offer, but at the same time, I'm a little selfish, and I feel like I'm very picky and I'm very like individualistic, which is not a good, you know, you got to like give and take a little bit. So I feel like that's why I don't find situations as easy as I probably could or used to, but you know, we'll see what happens. Definitely I'm trying to be more thoughtful about it, but what you said about American girls, that's why I went on that little rant. Cause you're like, don't marry a rebellious girl. Without playing the victim, I just pointed out my own flaws because it's true. I do feel like American girls, like 9 out of 10 of them, they're like liberal. Then the Republican ones are like girl bosses and they're rebellious and they don't want to listen. And it's just a disaster. Like I dated someone earlier this year for a little bit, not very long, but beautiful girl, beautiful, just doesn't listen and just always doing dumb stuff. And it's like, I don't, like you should listen, you're not doing the right things. And it's, what do you do? What, like, I'm not going to like sit around if some chick's not going to listen and she's just making terrible choices. So there's a lot of women that aren't doing that, but I do find that even a lot of conservative women, they don't want to like play their role. They just want to like be a girl boss, or they just want to make mistakes. And I don't know. It's like, that's not appealing to me. I'm not going to play the victim because I'm probably a huge problem too in many ways, but it's like 7 out of 10 Democrat girls are liberal. 8 out of 10 conservative girls are also liberal, and they want to be a girl boss, and they just don't want to listen. And I listen too. It's like, if you have a lot to say, if you're wise, if you're making good decisions, I'll listen too. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like, girls that make dumber choices than me don't want to stop making dumb choices for the most part. And the ones that do, a lot of them are taken already, or someone else is dealing with their problems. But it's like, it doesn't feel like if you have very strict standards, it doesn't feel like there's that many options. Obviously there are, but I feel like other countries for sure have way more traditional women. It's not like everywhere does, but I've talked to like chicks that are Polish and Russian, and so many times they're like super cool and down to earth and stuff. I don't know. I'm not really trying to go there, but we'll see what happens. But you can't force it. Someone said, if you get married, marry a Christian. Well, yeah, that's obviously what I want to do as well. Someone said, I'm a married stay-at-home mom and a family-oriented person. There's a lot of people out there with really successful relationships. So congrats. I'm not acting like it doesn't exist. Millions of people are married. There's people that found the right person. It's definitely there. And I feel like there's a lot of smart women that settle down at the right time, that are already taken, that knew what they wanted early and didn't have to like wait that long. Someone said Trump responded to Tucker saying, I get to decide what America first means. Where did he say that? Oh my gosh. Did he say that on True Social? Listen, Tucker, okay. I get to decide. It's me. It's me who decides, okay. It's like, ugh. He's right, though. He's not wrong. He does get to decide because he's the ringleader of Republicans. So Trump can say it's war. Trump could say it's peace. Trump could say it's left. Trump could say it's right. Trump can do communism. Trump can sell vaccines. He's not wrong. He does get to decide. He has a full control over the movement. Someone said, so many Christians these days haven't read the Bible, think Jews are a race. Well, I understand being a Jew in the Bible means something, but I guess what I'm saying is, if you took a DNA test, some people will come up with Sephardic or Ashkenazi Jewish as genetics. So I'm not overwriting the Bible, but I do believe that Jewish is a ethnic group as of now. And a lot of the ethnic group are not religious. So I'm not saying I don't know what you're trying to get to. Like, it's like the Bible doesn't talk about like Poland. I don't remember that, but like some people are Polish. Like it's not like anti-Bible, but there's certain ethnic groups that come up in your DNA genetics that are, I don't really know how to put it, but whatever you want to believe. I don't really care when it comes to like what you think about race, or if like it's on you. Don't care. Someone said it was a race when they left the wilderness. I also don't know what that means. All right, we'll read one or two more and then we'll take off. Appreciate you guys. I wanted to keep this like short, but I don't do that many live streams, so I have a lot to say. And I got a lot of stuff planned, but I do have, for my other, like when I'm not live, I do have like a nice camera and a good setup for like longer stream stuff, but I want it to be really meaningful. So I guess I just pick and choose when I live stream and when I don't. Someone said dissing Rand Paul was a major fumble. Is that a word? I don't know, for Trump. Who decided that? Here's what we'll end on, and then maybe someone will say something interesting. But Trump can do whatever he wants until his base actually cares. That's just the reality of it. You could fight it. You can get mad. You could scream. You could yell at people on Twitter all the day, but you're just going to destroy your own mental health and peace and get nothing out of it. This is the dynamic. He can say and do whatever he wants. He can be wrong. He can screw stuff up. But if people think he's this great leader who's doing everything right, then the movement is basically kneecapped, and the movement becomes a we're just going through the motions movement instead of a principled movement that actually gets stuff. And I think a principled movement gets stuff when people actually care and know what they want and stick to it. Like, there's two types of people out there on the right. There's people that have their own political philosophy. Even if it's not strict, you're willing to evolve with new information, but it's like, you know what you want. For example, if you don't think COVID vaccines are awesome and Trump says they're awesome, you should disagree with that if you actually believe that. If you cope for Operation Warp Speed and Trump selling vaccines just because you're against mandates and now you're going to make an excuse for the vaccine itself, when if Hillary Clinton did that, you know damn well you wouldn't actually agree with that at all, then you don't, like, you're basically like non-existent in the world of doing anything. You're just like an NPC. So that's the difference. It's like, there's so many people nowadays that they're basically just fans of Trump, and whatever he does, their first knee-jerk instinct is to make an excuse for it. So if something happens, like I've talked to people too where they're really nice, but they're like, Anomaly, do you think he did this to do this and that and this? And it's like, listen, I'll always be like, maybe. That's possible. But only Trump would make someone think all those things. If Hillary Clinton did something in the Middle East, you wouldn't be like, do you think she did that to stop that, to secretly hurt that, to show us this, to do this? Like, no, you would not do that for Mitt Romney. Do you think Mitt Romney passed Obamacare because he wanted to save us from this and that? And like, only Trump has these QAnon level theories about everything he does that don't actually match up with reality. And, you know, let's just say, like, with artificial intelligence, it's more accurate when you put more stuff in it. The more you give it, the better it could give out. It's not perfect and it's not always right, but it's like, it's based on what you give in. And it's basically taking everything that's out there to give you anything anyway. It's not creating anything new. It's just twisting everything around. It's the same thing with your understanding. Like, you know, if you block out all the bad things about Trump and your input's only things you like, you're only saying these things because you have an incomplete data set that you out of your own bias. Like, in your data set, is Trump taking $100 million from Miriam Adelson in there? Is Trump signing anti-Semitism hate speech laws while Alan Dershowitz looks over his shoulder with Jared Kushner in your data set? Is Trump pardoning a foreign spy and sending a foreign spy home on his donor's jet in your database? Is Trump selling the vaccine in your database? You know, like, there's all these data points where he's done good, he's done bad. But most people that make excuses for him, they don't even know these things, or they just block them out. Like a traumatized ex doesn't want to like remember the past, so you just like block it out. I feel like either people are like traumatized, or they're just like traumatized by the left, so they don't want to believe the right's that bad, because then it would like mess up their head, and they like can't handle the fact that both parties are fake and gay. So it's like people are making horrible decisions because they don't have a good data set. And one thing that I do here, and that I said consistently, I could act like, you know, I do, and I'm not trying to be blasphemous, but, you know, I always used to rap and say I was a prophet and stuff because I thought it was cool when I was young. And when I was young, I always did feel inspired to do certain things. So it's like there's been a time where I said different stuff. And, you know, I do feel like I was sent to do things because I would be rapping about super real stuff when I was like 19. I don't even know why I did it. I just felt like I had to. But now I always try to tell people, like, with my new information, in a humble way, like I could sit and just act like I'm a prophet and I'm just being fed these messages from God. Well, not really. The truth is I'm not a prophet in the sense of I'm not prophesizing Trump stuff, and I'm not like how was I right about COVID? How was I right about this? Was it a prophecy? Did somebody tell? No, it's actually from research. These things were not given to me by God. These things were just like I know what's going on because I actually pay attention. So if you only know what Trump is doing, then you're always going to be like at the behest of like believing him. So it's like I called out mandatory vaccinations in 2019 because I pay attention. 9 out of 10 Trump pages, they only regurgitate Trump and fight the left. They don't do deep research. They don't pay attention. They're not honest. They're just idiots. So it's like, that's how I've been right about all this stuff. My track record is better, or at least equal to the best of them, because I'm bringing in all this data. Oh, wait, shoot, he's taking money from Pfizer. Oh, wait, shoot, he is taking money from this big donor. Then I'm like, what is this big donor who just gave him $400 million? What do they want? So then if Trump is compromised on that topic and he does something like that, people are like, do you think it's 5D chess? It could be, but he also took $500 million from that family and they want stuff for Israel. So it makes sense that he has a blind spot there. Or with the vaccine stuff. So it's like, you don't need to get messages from God or QAnon in order to like solve these riddles. It's just like, be honest with yourself, tell the truth, know what's going on. And then you could be right about everything 10 years in advance because you're inputting data that everyone else is ignoring. The left is too emotional to input that data. They're brainwashed in their hate of Trump, and the right's brainwashed in their obsession of Trump. So they block all this stuff out and just say, I don't want to see it because that would hurt my bias. Like, okay, like, how many times do I and other people have to be right until you realize why we're right? We're right because we don't lie to ourselves about what's going on. We input the data, we see it, we bring it into all of our understanding, and then things make more sense. Like, I've known, and I was late on this topic, I'm not going to lie, but I've known Trump was basically compromised on the Israel topic for like 6-7 years now, because once you realize who's paying them, once you realize probably what the Epstein stuff was, once you realize what he doesn't do, like he's just not consistent on certain topics. Trump's pro-free speech and the Republicans are pro-free speech. They don't believe in hate speech laws, right? But they pass hate speech laws for Israel. So to me, it's like it has nothing to do with disliking or liking another country. It's inconsistent with the First Amendment. It's inconsistent with conservative values. It's inconsistent with everything they ever say or believe, from the Ben Shapiro to Dave Rubin to Donald Trump to Ron DeSantis to all of them. They all say one thing, but for Israel, they do another thing that goes against our First Amendment. That's a red flag. When it comes to the way Trump talks to foreign leaders, when, Zelensky says, you're in trouble if you don't help us, essentially, Trump freaks out. Netanyahu just said that. Let's see what Trump says to him. If he says the same thing as Zelensky, it's like, okay, well, Trump's being consistent there. No matter what foreign leader sends us a veiled threat or says that we need to fix their problems or else we're going to get hit, Trump always corrects them. If he doesn't correct Netanyahu, then that's different from what Trump does to everybody else, and he looks weaker. So, I know who he takes money from. I've listened to what they want for the money. I see what Trump does. I'm more right than other people because I'm just honest and I'm inputting all the data. Some people have an ethnic bias. Some people are probably working for that country. Some people want gigs in the Republican Party, and that's how you get them. Some people have a religious bias. They're Christian, and they were told for 50 years they need to support this country who doesn't believe in their God, or else God hates them, which doesn't even make sense. It's like there's a reason that everybody else is wrong, but I'm able to analyze why they're wrong. And you name a person, I could tell you why they're lying to you about it. You give me a name. Ben Shapiro, Jordan Peterson, Donald Trump. I could tell you why they're doing it. Some people it's religious, some people it's ethnic, some people it's social circles, some people are just suck-ups. Some people might be dumb, but I have a hard time believing it's that. It's like it's easy to figure out who's who because it's all so transparent nowadays. And that's how you're able to see through this stuff. So I pray that Trump supporters will treat him like any other politician, even if they go to support him and like him. The future of our movement, if we even have a movement, is dependent on people actually paying attention to him and treating him like other politicians. If not, it is what it is. And it's like, I'm at peace with it either way. I don't want to go to war with China and Iran. Obviously, I'm not thrilled about it, but what am I going to do? It's like the future of the country is not in my hands. The future of the country is in the hands of us as a collective. And that's a question for Americans in general. It would help if Democrats weren't so stupid and brainwashed. That's a big part of it. It would help if liberals weren't so stubborn and egotistical. Like, nothing they say makes sense. Let's just say they hate Trump, right? Let's say liberals weren't completely brainwashed. You hate Trump, right? No kings. Okay. So did you stand up against the lockdown? Did you stand up against the vaccine mandate? Did you stand up against Kamala Harris? You understand what I'm saying? None of them did any of that. So it's like, how are you against kings when you want the guy that you think is a king to lock the country down? It doesn't even matter. It doesn't even make sense. So it's like, will the left wake up? Will they break out of these chains? Will the right break out of these chains? only time will tell, and only God knows. I don't, it's like I can only do and say so much. I'm not going to stress out about other people's ignorance, but what do you guys think? Do you think people will figure it out, or enough people? It doesn't help when 100 million people are like leftists, and then 100 million people like Trump. Now, more than half the country is like fighting this like fake battle over like puppets, and they don't even realize it. But it's been the same story in a loop. So someone said Cat Turd is a sycophant. Yeah, he's a moron. Cat Turd is an idiot. But is it his IQ? Is he just is it his ego because he's some random, normal guy who has access to Trump? I have no idea, but he's not the brightest cat in the cat box. Let's just put it that way. Appreciate y'all. Have a good day. I'll be back soon. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll read some later.